Really matter. I'm not the important thing here. The important thing is what we're going to talk about that helps you guys. So starting with that, why do we do a course called Advanced Product Knowledge? Because if we think about it, without the advanced product knowledge, there's things that maybe we're struggling with, things that are costing us money because it's taking longer than it should. So the advanced product knowledge is really here to make you more money. That's in everything that we do, whether it's a business class, whether it's a detailing by numbers, whether it's a hands-on buffing, ceramic coating, which we do all those things here, it's always about you guys making more money. Because what's the point in taking time away from your busy schedule to watch us or come in and see us if we can't help you make more money? So that's always the goal in all of the different trainings and courses that we do. We do a lot of hands-on with the live. We're figuring out some ways to do that, but you know, we went live this month for the first time, which is, in my opinion, pretty cool. We had a great day yesterday and Monday doing lives. You saw Oscar, you saw Connor, you saw Bruno, you saw Zach. You know, our other 4 trainers that do this. I don't do this very often anymore. This class I like to do because it's a lot of fun. So advanced product knowledge is something that we wrote about probably 4 years ago. And we did it internally a lot, and people really liked the class because it kind of went a little different direction than process and procedure. Now, process and procedure, which is really the backbone of everything that we do in life. You know, I have a process and procedure in the shower. I go in the shower, I do my face and my hair, I do my body, and then I brush my teeth. And I brush my teeth in the shower. Some people think that's strange. You know what? That's just what I do. But that's my process in the shower. So even something as simple as getting in the shower in the morning is a process and a procedure. That goes so far in depth into the detailing process, because if you're not doing it the same way, or if you haven't figured out the process that works for you, that's going to hurt you. That's going to make it take more time. That's going to make it where you can't solve the problems that you need to solve. So really what we did was we wrote a program called Detailing by the Numbers. This is not a revolutionary program. This is not something you may not have seen from somebody else. What it was a modernized version using the different chemicals that we make, because we make 300 chemicals. If you are in the classroom right now, you see all these chemicals. If you're looking at me, you see all these chemicals. Why do we make 300 chemicals? I'll tell you why. I started out in this business about 28 years ago. I started with a company that was out of Minnesota, a small manufacturer, and they've become bigger. They really kind of went more to the retail product line. So I started out with that, and then as I transgressed through the 28 years, I saw a lot of different things. So what really happened for me, I've never been a detailer. I've never run a detail shop. I have trainers that have done all those things. They train in their areas of expertise, which we do have a lot of that. If you haven't seen our business class that Oscar Hernandez does, that's a hugely important class for you to go into. If you haven't seen Zach and Connor doing detailing by numbers, or headlights, hands-on buffing, ceramic, which also Oscar does and Bruno does. If you haven't seen Bruno's a Spanish trainer. If you haven't seen those, definitely tune in for them, because this is a tie-in to all that. Everything we do is kind of compartmentalized. So the process is a different class. The product is a different class. The hands-on is a different class. The reason we do that is if you think about the detailing process, it's complicated. It's not as easy as it used to be. 28 years ago, when I got into this business, you used about a quarter of what we use now. Different chemicals did different things. We didn't have microfiber seats. We didn't have windows that had issues. It used to be that if you cleaned a window, it stayed clean till somebody put their finger on it. That's not how it is nowadays. These windows fog up. There's a lot of different vapors coming off the plastics. So it got more complicated to even clean windows. It got more complicated to clean seats. So as that happened, we at Stinger Chemical started making products to cover specific needs. So if you look at some of our products, these ones for instance, odor eradicator, pretty simple. It's designed to get rid of odors. It's not designed to clean. It's not designed to make something shiny. It's just designed to get rid of odors. Laundry detergent. Laundry detergent is hugely important, and it only does laundry, but our laundry detergent is different. Our laundry detergent doesn't have the dyes, the fragrances, the softeners. Why don't we have that in ours? Because we're not cleaning clothes. We're cleaning greasy, dirty towels filled with silicone, solvents, and waxes. Silicone, solvents, and waxes are all water-resistant chemicals. So if you don't have a laundry detergent designed for your detailing towels, they're not going to come clean. Well, what happens if we have a towel that doesn't come clean? We get window streaking, we get products on there that we're transferring to another surface. So it's important to have a laundry detergent that works really, really well on what we're doing. Now, I won't use this on my clothes because I like my clothes to smell, be soft, but we don't care about that with towels. You guys take a towel and hold it against your face? Probably not, right? What does care what it smells like? What we care about is it absorbs water, cleans the surface, and doesn't recontaminate that surface with another chemical. Concrete remover, that's a chemical that we make, started actually in the janitorial and the industrial side of things. We brought it into the detail line because you guys do deal with concrete. Sometimes it's inside a car on a seat, sometimes it's outside a car on the paint, so that's a specialty product. Now, 300 chemicals, they're not all specialty products though. Specialty products are those things, if you look at all-purpose cleaners, degreasers, dressings, they can do a lot of different things. So why don't we have just one dressing? Because one dressing doesn't work the best on tires. Or if it works good on tires, it may not work on the interior. So we make, at last count, 19 water-based dressings and 7 solvent-based dressings. It's crazy. That's a lot of different dressings to figure out what's going to work for you. So part of that is this right here. I like Diet Mountain Dew. You guys might like Pepsi, Coke, Dr. Pepper, whatever it is. My guys will tell you, when we start off in the morning, if we can't find this at a convenience store, guess what? We're going to another convenience store to find this because this is like my crack. This is what keeps me going all day long. So I've had 16 of these already this morning, so that's why I'm talking so fast. That's actually not true. I've only had 3. So some of it's preference. Somebody likes a cherry smell. Somebody likes a bubblegum smell. Somebody likes a watermelon smell. Maybe it's that you like to mix it with water. Maybe you don't like to mix it with water. So let's talk about mixing it with water. Concentrates are built to save you money. What happens is we don't add the water at our factory. We build it so that when you add your water to it, it saves you money, which in turn creates more profit for you. Some of the chemicals we do are ready to use because when we build them, we need our high quality water. So in our factory, for every 2.5 gallons of water that comes into the factory from the tap source, which is Houston, Texas, where we build everything, we actually only use 1 gallon of that water on certain chemicals because it's so crucial to have that high quality water. If we build it as a concentrate, we put different things inside of it that will make your water work fine. You'll see that a lot with degreasers, all-purpose cleaners, we can build them that way. When it comes to some of the dressings, some of the glass cleaners, we want to use that real high-quality water in our factory. Because one thing about us is we do make every liquid ourselves. So if you look at the wall right now, you're going to see some companies up here. The Rag Company is one we work with a lot. Eagle Sandpaper, Buff and Shine, Rupus, Flex, Wheel Woolies. We do a lot with Scan Grip. Why do we have those things on this wall? Because without those things, we can't always use our chemicals to get the job done. So let's talk about tools. What are tools? If you look at a mechanic's toolbox now versus 20 years ago, mechanic's toolbox was, maybe it was the size of this right here 20 years ago. Well, now it's the size of a small semi. Literally, I mean, they're huge. Why do they do that? Because if a mechanic's doing a job and he needs to get it done quickly, because that's how he's paid, just like you guys are. Whether you work in a dealership, detail shop, do mobile detailing, whatever it is, an auction, the more you get done, the more you're going to get paid. Now, if you're paid hourly at a dealership, what do? You tell that dealership, hey, look at my output, look at my productivity versus the other guys. Do I deserve more money? Yeah, because I get things done faster. If you're a business owner, it's crucially important to get things done faster because you get paid more on the spot. You see that profit right away. Now, does that mean we can shortcut quality? Definitely not, because the quality is what keeps the customer coming back into you specifically for your services. So let's talk about exactly where I'm going with this. Tools. You gotta have tools. What's your very first tool you gotta have? You gotta have a chemical of some sort to get the job done. 99% of what we do in our industry requires a chemical. So let's talk about going back to my 28 years and never being a detailer and never running a detail shop. You all maybe look at that going, oh, I'm going to click off right now, or I'm going to walk out of this room because why do I want to listen to this guy? I'll tell you why. In my 28 years in this, I've had the fortune, the good fortune, of working with some of the best people in the industry. I go to auctions, I go to dealerships, I go to detail shops, ceramic shops, talk to mobile detailers all day long. Through them, I've learned what really works. I'm probably the dumbest right now, in however many of you are watching this, how many of you are in this room, I'm probably the dumbest guy in this whole entire place. Nothing that I have come up with in this industry did I make up in bed last night. I didn't lay in bed and go, yeah, you know what? This is a good way to detail a car. Never happened. Why? Again, I'm not that smart. But what I did have is that experience in seeing all the different things that worked. I'm walking through an auction one day, and I'm going to grab something here. A guy's got a bug block, just like this one. He's got an all-purpose cleaner. He sprays his all-purpose cleaner in the map pocket, or that little compartment down at the bottom of the door, and he squeezes this thing and sits inside the door and waits for it to expand, and then he starts moving it back and forth. Well, this is not a typical thing I've seen a lot. So I walk over, I watch him, and I ask him, I say, hey, you know, what's the reason you're doing that? Oh, there's a whole bunch of Coca-Cola in the bottom of this that dried and turned all gummy. So if I stick this in there and squeeze it like this, it expands out, and I just move it back and forth and gets all that Coca-Cola out of there. I'm like, pretty smart. Well, that's been happening for 28 years. So for 28 years, I've been seeing a lot of people smarter than I, probably most of you, that have figured out ways to get things done in a quick but a high quality manner. So in this industry right now, you're seeing a lot of new things coming out all the time. So if we look at that and we start talking about tools, again, what's the first starting point of tools is the chemical that's going to clean that surface. Chemicals clean differently than other chemicals. They're not all the same. Some of them foam, some of them are liquids, some of them get into cracks and crevices better. That's how we clean cars now. It used to be that we used a degreaser on every single part of the car, and generally that was what worked. Materials changed, vinyl changed, leather changed, windows changed, plastic changed, carpets changed, fabrics changed. When Ford came out with microfiber fabrics, man, no one could get them clean. Well, now we know how to get them clean. If you go to our detailing by the numbers class, you actually learn how to do that. So there's a plug for our classes out there. So let's talk about why the process is important, and let's talk about the other tools. If you guys go onto our website, if you're in the classroom or you have this here, when you open this up, and this is our detailing by the numbers, you will see that it is a 6-step process, which is very similar to a lot of others. We have it in Spanish and English, actually both, on the website. So this is really kind of what we call the backbone to the process. Now, the backbone to the process has to be in place because there has to be some kind of order or process in how we clean the car. So in the detailing by numbers, when we do that class, we talk about each different category and why what's important to get the job done has to happen kind of in this order. Now, does that mean this is 100% right? Not always. I'll tell you something right now. If you're doing something in your shop and you're getting good results, I'm not telling you to change it. In fact, if you can get it done quickly, get it done right, and make money, that's perfect. Don't hang up, don't get off. It's not the point. Here's what I will tell you. Every successful business out there evolves and changes. Businesses that were doing business 30 years ago are not doing business the same way. What's changed? The internet. What's changed? People's expectations. Everything in our world now is fast. Customer drops off their car, when can you have it done? I can have it back to you tomorrow. Oh, okay, I can't drop it off, then I got to have it back today. Okay, figure out a way to clean this car faster. How is one of the ways to do that? Keep the car drier. That's in detailing by the numbers. How do we keep a car dry? That's important. So what we're going to do today is talk about the different chemicals that fit into this process right here. We're going to talk about alternatives to what's listed in there, because we do have chemicals listed in detailing by the numbers that are what we would suggest or our most popular chemicals. That doesn't mean they're the only chemical though. Again, if you like cherry fragrance, we got cherry. If you like bubble gum, we got bubble gum. You like pina colada, we got pina colada. Don't drink the pina colada. I tried it. You don't get drunk and you get sick. It doesn't work that way. It's not a good thing. So in this layout right here, and I'm going to kind of have the camera follow me a little bit down the line here, you will see all these bottles lined up. Do you need every one of these bottles in your shop? No. Do you need the ones that are important to get the job done? Absolutely. One of the most crucial ones is WOW. WOW was made for microfiber fabrics. When someone came to us and said, we can't get microfiber fabrics clean, we said, okay, let's start working on a chemical. This is a different chemical. It's ammonia based. So that ammonia dries really quickly. A big key in our industry right now is we got to get these cars dried quickly, because what happens otherwise? They smell like a wet dog. And that wet dog smell is really, really hard to get rid of. We're trying to solve problems, not create more problems for us later on that causes us to lose money and not get the car done as quickly. So these specialty chemicals are important to have in your shop. Now down here, I have 3 different degreasers. I have 3 different wash soaps. I have interior cleaners right here. What happens with having 3 different degreasers? Someone's going to pick the one they like the best. Why do we make, actually we make probably 14 different types of degreasers. Why do I have 3 right here? Because this one, purple stuff, is our most economical. We'll call it our low price alternative, but it works great. Depending upon what you're doing, it might be the perfect chemical for you. Doesn't smell great. We don't add a scent to it, because adding scents to products actually causes them to be more costly, because it costs us more to produce that product. This one, Black Scorpion, is just stronger and it has a black cherry scent. It is more of a premium product that has a higher price tag on it, but you know what? When you're diluted with water, we're talking pennies difference. So what's my favorite one? People always say, what's your favorite chemical? Black Scorpion is one of my favorites because I like how it smells. It smells like black cherry. Then you go into a product like Dynamite. This one is so strong, and I'll tell you something else about this. I've been selling Stinger chemicals for 15 years. I sold them 10 years to end users, out in the field, to dealerships, detailers, mobile car washes, mobile detailers, everything. So in that 10 years of selling it, I got real successful with it because I got to know it really, really well. And it takes a long time to learn this. So when people say, what's your favorite chemical? I've been working for Stinger for 5 years. I've been around these chemicals for 15 years total. So I have a pretty good idea what they do. And again, it's not because I thought of it in bed this morning or 10 years ago. It's because I've been out in the field finding out what people like, seeing the results they get, and some people like the highest price, strongest cleaner we got. Some people like a black cherry smell. Some people are doing a job that they don't make as much money on, so they have to get the cheapest thing they can, but it also has to work. Great product, lower price tag. It might be perfect for what you're doing, but it's not the strongest degreaser that we make. Now, degreasers kind of fall into that all-purpose category too, because really degreasers can be watered down, used as an interior cleaner. They can be used on fifth wheel grease at full strength, all different ways to do that. That's a lot of the times why we make concentrates, because if you have a concentrate product, you can kind of decide what you need. If I've got a guy and I walk into a shop and he says I clean fifth wheels, I'm probably going to pick the strongest thing I've got and tell him to mix it half and half. Most of our products get energized by water. So the alkalines that we use in them need that water. If they don't have that water, what happens is it's not going to work as well. I'll tell you something about chemicals. When I sold chemicals out in the field to end users, I would walk into a shop and I would say, hey, you're cleaning fifth wheel grease. I would use this and I would mix it half and half. That's strong. That'll rip a lot of dirt and a lot of possibly even paint off a car. But they're cleaning something that's so nasty they have to. So looking at Dynamite, and they're mixing it half and half, it's costing you more money, but generally they're getting some pretty good pay, because people who are bringing semis in generally are willing to pay a little more. Now, if you're doing fleet washing, your choice is going to be purple stuff, because it works great for that, and it's cheaper. So that's a lot of times why we make different chemicals, because depending upon the job you're doing, we want to make a chemical that gets you the most out of it for your money. We don't want you spending more than you have to, so we give you an alternative that works great at a lower price. We give you an alternative that rips through fifth wheel grease, but it's going to cost you a little more. Every time we have our business class that Oscar Hernandez is mostly doing now, Connor, actually all the guys have done it, but our business class focuses so intently on cost, pricing, margins, all the things that you need to know to make your shop successful, because we don't want the shop to go out of business. We don't want our customers to go out of business. We do rely on you to feed my children, and I have lots of ex-wives and lots of children, so I need you buying our stuff. Don't stop buying our stuff, whatever you do. In fact, buy more of it. That would be great. So let's kind of go down the line. If you look at detailing by the numbers is in the catalog. It's also on the website. So if you're looking at detailing by numbers, there's some things that are in there that may seem out of order. First step we tell you is bring the car into the shop or go to the outside of the shop, bring a vacuum with you, bring a brush, bring a couple chemicals along. Because when that car is dry, it's real easy to tackle problems that will cost you time later on. Pet hair. Pet hair is a big problem. I've seen chemicals out there that supposedly will help pet hair. I've never seen amazing results out of that. Really, pet hair comes down to what kind of hair, what kind of fabric, different things like that. But if we don't get that pet hair out of the way first, how are we going to get stains out? Because the very first thing you want to do in any situation like that is you want to grab something, a pre-spotter. Generally, we recommend an enzyme because enzymes will do the work for you. There's only a few chemicals out on the market that will do the work for you without a physical agitation. Physical agitation means if you've got a stain on a carpet, you're going to grab a brush. And you're going to take your all-purpose cleaner and you're going to rub that carpet or rub that fabric, rub that surface, whatever you're going to do. That's physical agitation. The only chemicals really that don't require physical agitation are going to be an enzyme-based product. Still sometimes do have to agitate it, but it will do its job because it's full of little bugs. These little bugs go in and they tackle protein-based stains. Protein-based stains can be anything from certain oils to foods to blood, vomit, urine, all those different things. So enzyme is a chemical that when you spray it on, it will start doing the job before you even tackle it with a brush or anything else. So we get that pet hair out of the way, we get that dirt out of the way, we use our enzyme and we spray it on and we let it sit. I don't have this problem. In the shower, I can wash my head and rinse it right away. If I had a woman in the class right now, I would say, okay, your long hair, do you immediately put your conditioner in it and then rinse it out right away, or do you leave your conditioner in for a while? The answer is always leave the conditioner in for a while because that's what starts that job working. That moisturizing of the hair takes a little bit of time. That's what we call dwell time. Dwell time means that if we have a chemical like an enzyme, we want to let it sit for a while because those bugs are going to start to work on the job for us and tackle it and start to clean it before we even get to the process of touching it with a brush, a towel, a vacuum, any of those different things. So moving into all-purpose cleaners. And we have enzymes in aerosol and in a liquid. Why do we have it in liquid and aerosol? Depending upon how you want to do the job, how much your budget is for your chemicals in your shop, in your dealership, on your mobile rig, whatever it is, sometimes aerosols work better. And the reason that is because of foam. Foam naturally lifts dirt. Chemicals are designed to lift dirt through surfactants, but they're not as good necessarily as an aerosol. So a lot of times I will tell people if you're cleaning really bad microfiber seats, you'll want to have a liquid like an enzyme, and you'll also want to have an aerosol because the aerosols will attack that surface, lift that dirt, keeping it more dry. Liquids will get it more wet. The reason, again, we want to keep it dry is we want to take away that, one, we want to give the car back to the customer faster. Two, we want to take away that soaking of the seats because that soaking of the seats, especially with these new fabrics and new foams and things like that, will hold that water down there and that dirt will suck down into that seat. And when it starts to dry, you're going to get that dirt popping back up. You're going to get water rings and things like that. So it's very crucial, especially on interiors, to keep that interior dry. We don't want to have it soaking wet. I had a 78 Ford pickup when I was 17 or whatever it was. Tell you how old I am. I just gave that away. I could take a pressure washer before a date, pressure wash my 78 Ford pickup out, and 4 hours later it was dry, and I could go out on my date, my car was clean, she was impressed, it was great. That ain't how it works anymore. We take a pressure washer to a car now, we're gonna do some serious damage. We're gonna get it so wet it's never gonna dry. And what's our 3 things we're trying to accomplish? Clean, shiny, and smells good. If we can accomplish those 3 things, we have become successful. So some of these products are designed to keep the car drier. Aerosols as a whole are more expensive, but sometimes do a job differently because of the way that foam rises from that surface so quickly and it doesn't penetrate into that seat, getting it so wet. So let's talk about the next step, which is going to be our prep. So wash bay and prep. We get into the wash bay, we get into the process of washing the vehicle. There's some specialized chemicals out there. There's problems in that crop up that are more difficult. If you are in Minnesota or maybe Texas, you've got a lot of bugs. You've got love bugs, mosquitoes. I mean, I lived in Minnesota. If I decided to go north and drive for 2 hours in the dark, I'd use my wiper blades to get rid of all the mosquitoes just to see out the window. That's how bad it is. That becomes a problem that's not standard in a wash process, so a lot of times we need to use a specialty cleaner like Splat. Splat is designed to break down the bugs, break down the residue, and make it a lot easier to get those bugs off of that surface so we can get to that next process. Splat also is a safer chemical in the sun and the heat. We design it so that it's got a little more of that dwell time capability, because one thing we don't want to let happen is we don't want to let chemicals dry on the surface. If we let any chemical dry on the surface, if you're out in the sun and you let water dry on the surface, it's going to affect that paint. You're going to see water spots, you're going to see chemical etching. Chemical etching is not an easy thing to accomplish reversing. In some cases it's impossible. So what happens? We use a Splat bug remover that's designed for that specific purpose and that specific job, and that's where we get the faster, better results. If you want to struggle with using a degreaser as a bug remover and it takes more time, it really doesn't save you on money, because what is time? Time is money. My shower in the morning, it's because I don't want to get up early. I want to get it all done quick. I like to sleep in a little bit, but I still got to get to work on time, so I do that shower as quick as I can. I figured out my process. It's the fastest way to do it, so that's why I do it that way. Let's go to degreasers. So again, degreasers are what we would call an all-purpose cleaner in some cases, or degreasers. Some people will just use degreasers for motors. Some people will use it for motors, wheel wells, tires. They can use it for bug remover, but there is a better option for that. Some people use degreasers watered down as an interior cleaner, a stain remover, a prep, a vinyl cleaner. Generally what you're doing is you're adding a lot more water to that chemical. If I'm doing an engine with, say, a Black Scorpion, I'm probably mixing it anywhere from 3-to-1 to 10-to-1, depending upon that engine that we're cleaning. If I'm doing an interior, I'm probably adding only about this much to the bottle, which is about 30-to-1, and that Black Scorpion is going to work as an all-purpose cleaner. I can do vinyl, I can do carpets. If I mix it too strong on the interior, what am I going to get? I'm going to get white streaky lines from the chemical. I might possibly take some color off of leather or even vinyl. So degreasers, in my opinion, kind of become an all-purpose cleaner. In fact, in our catalog, I keep thinking that we should change them to just all-purpose cleaners and stop using the term degreaser because it doesn't really cover it like it used to. So you can use those for all-purpose cleaners. Specifically, they're more designed for degreasing, heavy cleaning, things like that. When we get into other products we're going to talk about later, true all-purpose cleaners or even specialty cleaners, we're going to talk about how that water changes things. So let's talk about how you buy your chemicals. I'm going to show you a table over here. This table has 3 different sizes of the same product on it. We actually make, in most cases, 6 to 7 different sizes of containers of product. We go all the way from a ready-to-use all-purpose cleaner or a ready-to-use glass cleaner, a ready-to-use dressing. And these little bottles, they're designed for customers who are stopping into your detail shop to find out, hey, what did you use on my tires? Because I know we've got a detail scheduled 6 months from now, but I really like how my tire looks. or they're going into a store and they're buying that product in the store. They're consumers. They are not professional detailers who need to look at how much they spend on chemicals. So in these ready-to-use formulas, we also have the gallons. Starting with the gallons, we get to the concentrates in most situations. This saves you money. This costs you more money. Now, as a consumer, if I'm not in our industry, do I want to buy a big whole gallon of this that I can mix at 30-to-1? Because think about that, that's 31 gallons of product. Probably not, because I don't have that much room in my garage. I have a great garage and it's very organized. I wouldn't have a lot of these laying around if I was just cleaning my car every month, every couple months. But a detailer that's doing commercial work, making money on the process, needs to have a concentrate because it saves tremendous amounts of money, tremendous amounts. What's even better? 5-gallon containers. This saves you all kinds of money too. So you think to yourself, well, why do you have a gallon? Why do you have a 5-gallon? Depending upon what you're doing, if you're a mobile detailer, you may not have enough room on your truck or your trailer for all these big 5-gallon containers. So this gallon is still a great purchase because it saves money because it's concentrate. 5-gallon gets a little more cost effective, we'll say, because of the fact you're buying in a larger container. It's just like this right here. This cost me $2.49. If I was to go and buy a big, huge 2-liter bottle of it, it costs $3.99, and it's 6 times more product. So it's the same way as everything in life. Generally, if you buy that higher volume of a liquid, you're going to get a better price. So that's why we have the different sizes. I will always tell people, if you want to buy a chemical at the most reasonable cost and make the most money, look at big sizes that you can have. If you have a shop and you can fit 55-gallon drums, awesome. 55-gallon drum saves a lot of money, more so than a 5. So it's just that volume of purchasing that goes up. Now there's some products out there that are what are called super concentrates or hyper concentrates. I'll tell you right now, I'm not going to badmouth anybody else's products. Some of those work okay, but in essence, in the 28 years of doing this, the chemical that comes in the big container that's a concentrate is usually the best option. Now, not to again say somebody out there is making bad products. I'll tell you what, anybody who's watching this right now, when you get used to a product and you figure out how to use it and it works, that's going to probably happen with almost everybody's chemicals out there. What you need to look at is how much am I paying for it? So the big advantage we have in Houston, where I'm at right now, is we have the port, the raw materials, because Houston is the chemical capital of the country. I mean, if you're here and you've ever driven from here to Galveston, there's 100 refineries that offer raw materials. We just drive and get our raw materials. We don't have to ship them across the country. We make them right here in our factory in Houston. It saves us money on making that product, which in turn saves you money. So there's advantages we have because of geographical location. And I'll tell you something, it's not that our chemicals are weak or they're not as good as others. It's just that logistics of having all the raw materials right here. If you have to ship a semi of raw materials somewhere else in the country, it might be anywhere from $3,000 to $7,000. We send our own semis to go pick them up. Costs us whatever the guy in the semi is getting for an hourly rate. Saves a lot of money, which in turn saves you a lot of money. That's why when people say, what's the benefits of using Stinger chemicals? One, you have a very knowledgeable staff selling it, who's very used to using it and has gone through all these processes, has traveled all over the world. I was just in Taiwan, Vietnam. Those were great learning experiences for me because in other countries they do different things. It's not always the same. They have different cars they work on. You know, Vietnam, cars are very small. So they don't want big, huge odor bombs like we'll talk about in a little bit. They want smaller ones because they don't need that big one. That's brilliant. Uses less product, costs them less, and they still get that need done. Now, if they had fleets of Suburbans and fleets of Ford Expeditions and vans and all those things over there, and that's what they were doing, it probably would change how they do things and probably use different materials. But it was very interesting to kind of look at the surrounding areas, see all the cars. I took a 10-block walk. It was very hot and very humid. It's very hot and very humid in Vietnam, about 2 blocks, and I looked like I'd just taken a shower with my clothes on. But those things are what we see out in the field because we do all that training, all that traveling, and go to all these different places. My team has been to Alaska, Honduras. I've been to a number of other countries outside of the ones I just mentioned. So what's the benefit of Stinger Chemicals? We give you a lot of knowledge. We do this for free. This is free. Now, is it bad to go to a paid program? Not at all. If you go to such courses as Detailing Success, which is Rennie Doyle School, that is an incredibly great experience. It is 50 hours long. You go to California for it, but in that 50 hours, you will get so much knowledge because of the experience and the times that they've spent in the industry that you'll learn things that are amazing. What do we do with our courses? We cut it down into smaller blocks, and again, we compartmentalize it so that when you guys are doing a certain job, you can watch just that certain job. You can watch a class detailing by the numbers and talk about the process procedure. You can watch this class and talk about chemicals. So there is no bad training. What you get out of a training is what you take of it. So let's get back to our chemicals. These are all car wash soaps. I have another probably 20 car wash soaps available. Some fit into the car wash line, meaning the big automatic car washes. Most of these are going to fit into the detail that we talk about in this training room, although we are having a car wash class next month, actually, which might be pretty interesting for some of you guys if you deal with car washes or things like that. We're going to expand into that class as well and build that program for training. But these car wash soaps are a little different. This is a stripper soap. Oh, you guys stop thinking, get that out of your heads. This means that this is our strongest soap we sell in the detail line. Why do we want a really strong soap that's going to strip all the waxes and greases and all that protection off? It's really easy nowadays. We're going to ceramic coat it. We don't need anything on that car other than what we're going to apply for a ceramic coating. This product is a neutral pH soap. This one's actually fairly neutral. In this industry, there's a lot of misconceptions about neutral pH soaps. Most soaps fit into a neutral pH category. They're just going to be a little higher on the pH scale, which is going to give it that extra little kick to get rid of that grease and oil. Not that this is going to pull a ceramic coating off, because it's not. You know, ceramic coating, if it's a good ceramic coating, it can't be removed by chemicals. That just doesn't happen. It has to be removed by friction. So sanding, heavy buffing, things like that. Our ceramic coating is that way. You can't pull it off with a chemical. Once it's cured, it's on there. So this is a true, very neutral pH soap. This is a great maintenance soap that's going to get you your maintenance customers coming back in after their ceramic. If you're out mobile in the field and you're maybe going to spray a coating on it after the fact, this is going to be the soap that you're probably going to want to use the most. If you're in a dealership or in a express, this is a wash and wax. Wash and waxes actually have a little bit of an animal fat to them. That animal fat really isn't a wax. It's a rinse agent, but the term wash and wax came about a long time ago because there wasn't other things in the lineup. So is a wash and wax a true wax? No. There's no silicones in it. It's basically just that addition of that material that causes that rinsing, and it also causes that little extra shine. So your chrome, your windows, your paint is going to have just that little extra pop to it. This is a great product if you're doing just washes. Mobile wash, shop wash, whatever it is, this is going to be a product that's just going to do that little extra and give that little extra impression. Because if we think about it, that impression the customer gets is everything. Without that impression, they're not going to keep coming back. If the car looks just like it did when they dropped it off, they're never going to come back to you. If it looks better, they might come back. If it looks outstanding, they're probably going to come back to you. Now, if you have a ceramic coating on that car and you're doing a ceramic wash, a maintenance wash for a ceramic, this is a ceramic shampoo. So it's an SiO2 base, so it's the base of a ceramic. It's not a hardened silica ceramic. There's a lot of misconceptions about ceramics, and a lot of people throw that word around. There's lots of different types of ceramic products. SiO2 is generally always going to be your base for those. SiO2 is just basically a very technologically advanced, durable silicone. That silicone is a great addition to any product because it's going to give it more shine. It's going to give it longevity as far as durability. Is it going to be as good as a ceramic coating, a true hardened ceramic coating? No. But if you're maintaining a vehicle that has a ceramic coating, this is going to boost it. It's going to give it a ton more shine. If you don't have a ceramic coating on a vehicle, this will make the car shinier than any other soap we have. So why do we have 20-some soaps? Because there's differences in how we're doing things. There's different services we're providing for our customers that require a different tool, a different chemical. So we talked about tools. This is a tool. Guess what? This is part of your toolbox too. Without maybe 2 of these soaps, how are you going to accomplish the job? This one costs more money. Ceramic shampoo is going to cost more money than a typical basic maintenance type soap. Hopefully you're getting more money, because when we do our business class, we talk about what are you charging for your services. That's a hugely important part of that class, and I'll tell you, we do a very good job of making you aware whether you're charging enough or not charging enough. That's so important. That's so important, because if you're not charging enough and making enough money, if you're the lowest guy on the whole entire city you're working in, and you want to be cheap because it thinks it brings in more business to you, what it does, it brings in more volume to you, but you're probably not making as much as if you did, if you're doing 8 cars a day making this much, but you do 4 cars a day and you make this much, that's a way better day for you, a lot less work. So there's different purposes for different chemicals. Car wash soap is the easiest one because it's real easy for me to explain what the differences do. We're going to get into dressings in a little bit, and that's a lot harder to explain. Most of our soaps now are going through foam cannons. All of our soaps can go through foam cannons. Ceramic shampoo was more specifically designed to go through a foam cannon. The other ones can be bucket. They can be used in a foamer, like an IK foamer like this. They can be used in a foam cannon. Very universal. Ceramic shampoo, because of the way it's built with those SiO2s in it, it doesn't foam up as much because those are natural foam killers. So generally through a foam can, you're going to get more of that foam. Now, there's a misconception in the industry that foam is what cleans in a car wash soap. That's not true. What happens with that foam, and the reason it's so important, is its lubricity. Anytime we take a surface that doesn't have lubricity, meaning if we're wiping it with a microfiber towel, if we're using it with a wash mitt, and we don't have that lubricity, what happens is we end up causing scratches. And going forward to the end of the process, when we start buffing, we don't want to buff out scratches that we created ourselves. We want to minimize what we're causing for work later on, so that foam helps to lubricate. But really inside of these is a whole lot of other technology that's cleaners that will clean that dirt by lifting it faster, better, breaking down that film. So foam is crucially important, but it's not the thing that will clean the vehicle. That's a whole different part of how that chemical is built. But that lubricity is important, because if you don't have it, you're going to cause more problems later on. So soaps that don't have as much foam because of the way they're built, this one will work in a bucket, the ceramic shampoo, but really it's designed to go through a foam cannon. Foam cannon creates the foam for you. So if you take a product that has a lower level of foam built into it, and those are builders, that's what we call them, those builders, when we are counteracted by adding that SiO2, we solve it by using a foam cannon. So let's talk about wheel cleaners. Wheel cleaners come in 2 different formats generally. Generally, you're going to find with wheel cleaners, you're going to have a non-acid or an acid. Non-acid is not probably as effective on a lot of the wheels as an acid, but it's a little safer on some wheels. Some wheels shouldn't have an acid on them, some should. Most of the time, if you're doing OE vehicles, meaning anything that comes out of the factory with the factory wheels on it, generally a wheel acid is safe for that. In some cases, you'll want to test it. Aftermarket wheels, I never recommend using wheel acid on them. In fact, some aftermarket wheels, I recommend glass cleaner, because glass cleaner is never going to wreck really anything unless you spray it on a hot dash or something like that. So glass cleaners are great at cleaning wheels that don't need a big heavy-duty acid or non-acid wheel cleaner. It's safe. You're never going to wreck anything. I can't tell you in the 28 years of doing this how many times I get a call about somebody wrecking wheels. Nowadays, it used to be that you could replace a set of wheels for $1,000, $1,500. Now it's $3,000 to $40,000. I mean, it's crazy what wheels cost nowadays. So it's important to know what you're going to use these cleaners on. A non-acid wheel cleaner can cause damage to a vehicle's wheel, generally if it's hot or if you let streaks run. So any wheel cleaner we recommend, one, you're going to cool the surface just like you do in your pre-soak with your wash. You're going to cool that surface down with water, and then you're going to apply your cleaners to it. With wheel acids and wheel cleaners, I have found in all my time in this industry, the people who wreck wheels are spraying them on dry, hot wheels, and they're spraying them from the top down to the bottom, meaning that what happens is all that stuff at the top runs down that dry surface and causes all those streaks. How do you cure that? Spray from the bottom up to the top, because it doesn't run across a dry surface or a surface that doesn't have a chemical already on it. If you do that, you will cure 99.9% of the problems that you have with wheels. So non-acid, try it out, see if you like it. Some people don't use acids because they smell. That's just part of the process of an acid build, is that acids don't smell good. But as a whole, if you're doing those wheels that can work with acid, again, just like the enzyme, an acid is a product, one of the only products, that if you spray it on, you a lot of times don't have to touch it or agitate it. Generally with a non-acid wheel cleaner, you will have to use some kind of an agitation, meaning a brush of some sort. This is a wheel woolly. These are great because they're really soft and they don't scratch up wheels. They hold up really well. This is one of the things you can use. You can use a brush like this. You don't have to use a fancy brush. You can use whatever basic brush you have. This happens to be a little fancier one. That looks cool. Really cool colors, Detail Factory. But generally, non-acid wheels cleaners require agitation. So now that we've got our interior pre-treated, we've removed our bugs, we've degreased all of our parts that we need to degrease, and we are now at the wash stage. What's the next step we're going to have? Drying. We're not going to talk about chemicals right now. We're going to talk about those tools we talked about. So 28 years ago, we used terry cloth towels to dry pretty much everything, or we used a chamois. Chamois would get stiff, hanging on a hook. It became a block, basically, of a leather type material or a leather material. Put it in the bucket, wring it out, it turns soft, we go do the car with it. What happened after that was we had this crazy thing called the water blade. This came along, everybody was like, this is great. It is great, but the problem we have nowadays with a lot of these cars is they're very soft paint. I mean, I can walk by a car at a dealership and run my fingers over the top of it and it will scratch. So with this much friction, we had a lot of problems with these soft paint scratching. You know, your GMC blacks, your Denali blacks, I mean, almost anything nowadays has this paint that will scratch so easily. So this became not the best option. We came up with these things right here. This is from the Rag Company. These are drying towels that we use in all of our training classes, and we sell them also as well. This towel is a little different. When we use this towel, we drag dry, meaning we lay it across like that and we pull it towards us. That drag dry creates very little to no friction, so we're not scratching the vehicle. These towels are designed to absorb anywhere from best. I don't use this anymore. I especially don't use terry cloth towels. I don't use chamois. I use towels that are the drag dry method because that's the one that's going to create the least amount of scratches, still works great, actually better than a lot of the other things. So drying towels become especially important because that drying process is where a lot of things can happen. If we didn't get it clean and there's all that little silt and rocks and things like that in there that didn't come out of the jams, if we take this here or a terry cloth towel that's real scratchy, you're going to find that when those things come out, we cause scratches. Why does it happen? Because generally we're rubbing really hard. Drag dry method with one of these towels, certainly hands down the best way to dry a vehicle. Let's talk about towels. Towels are another tool. So when we look at our towels, we have drying towels, we have window towels, we have different color microfiber towels. Every microfiber towel in your shop should be edgeless because edges cause problems in most cases. There's a few towels on the market that have a silk edge to them that's not going to cause as much, but an edgeless towel like this one right here is far and away your best solution to not creating more problems down the line for yourself, hence that scratching with that edge on it like that. Now, microfiber towels used to come in one color. When I started selling microfiber towels long, long ago, they were all blue, light blue. That was the towel because that's what was being made overseas. Now we have microfiber towels in all colors. Why is that important? Because some towels are specifically made for a certain process, drying or windows. We've got window towels that have a little bit of a grain or texture to them that work really good on these windows that are hard to clean. But then we've got blue, green, red, and gray. Why do we have all those? Because what happens is specifically a towel used for cleaning a solvent-based dressing off of a wheel makes a horrible towel to try and clean windows with, because it will streak and it will cause all kinds of problems, and windows are a problem. So when you have different colors, you can designate, this is our window towel right here. This doesn't get used on wheels, it doesn't get used on tar, it's just windows. So if you notice, I've got a bin up here that has 6 different compartments, because what happens with towels, even if you're using my laundry detergent, the best laundry detergent out in the market, if you start washing some of these towels together in the same load, they will transfer some of those chemicals back and forth to each other and make that towel not work as good. So when we wash our towels here, we wash them by color. When this gray container right here fills up, we do a load of laundry for this towel specifically separate. Drying towels, we don't want to fill these things up with silicones and solvents because they're not going to absorb the water they're supposed to. Again, because silicone, solvents, waxes are all water-resistant chemicals. They're designed to shed water away. So towels, it's very important to, one, use a very good laundry detergent designed for our towels, and also separate them out, because if you think about your investment in tools, what do you spend on tools and your products has to somehow factor into how much money you're making. The things you can't control in your shop are how much heat am I using, because you can't control how cold it is outside. How much air conditioning am I using? Hopefully you have air conditioning in your shop. Not a lot of shops do, but in Houston that would be a horrible thing to deal with because it's very hot and humid here. If you have air conditioning and it's very hot and humid outside and you turn your air conditioning on, you can't control the weather, so your cost of that air conditioning, that electrical use is going to go up. What you can control in your shop is what you spend on your tools and your chemicals. So if you're spending a bunch of money on towels and it's coming out of your checkbook, you're probably going to want to take care of those tools and make sure they work the best they can and last as long as they can. Because throwing away towels, you're throwing cash out the door. So towels are an important thing in your shop to start looking at and go, okay, how can I make my towels work better, last longer, and save myself money, thereby at the end of the year making more money. So let's talk about dressings. This is my least favorite category to talk about because there's so many options. We have solvent-based dressings, which are exactly that. They're a solvent-based. They're generally blue. They are generally used on tires. We have water-based dressings that are concentrates. We have water-based dressings that are ready to use. We have some that have smells. We have some that don't. We have some that are really thick that are meant to be wiped on the tire, not sprayed on the tire. Or sprayed on the surface, not wiped on the surface, or opposite, wiped on the surface, not sprayed on the surface. So in essence, we have a product that will work for everybody for however you like to use it. And if you look at our website or a catalog, which I do recommend that you click on the catalog link, that's more on the front of the home page, or it's under more information, I think is where it's at. But that catalog, that digital catalog that pops up, is a very easy way to navigate through our products and look at the categories. That will explain a lot of it too, because the description will tell you, is it a concentrate, is it a ready to use? Ready to use, RTU is what we refer to in the industry a lot of times, is simply that. It's you get the bottle and you either use it as is or transfer it to another bottle as is, no water added to it. Concentrates are where we start to add water. Water-based dressing, some people don't want to add water to it. They want a ready to use because they don't want to deal with putting silicone products in a bottle and having it spill all over and get slippery. We're gonna have a train come through right now. This is also my favorite part of the class because that train is literally right outside that wall right there. So it's gonna get loud in here for just a second. That's okay, I tend to talk loud. So we'll try and get through this part, but if you missed something, certainly feel free to send a question in. You know, Connor's over there on the computer right now monitoring questions and monitoring comments. While we're doing this, and as we get more into this, the questions are great, you know, because if you're thinking of it out there in the internet world and you're thinking of it here, There's probably a bunch of other people thinking that same question. So I've always said in all my trainings, there's no such thing as a dumb question. But then throughout that time, I actually have had someone ask me a dumb question, so I can't say that anymore. But most of those questions are, well, I'm dating my girlfriend, and I'm really not sure I want to be with her forever, so what do I do, Dan? Tell you what, I've been married a bunch of times. I am the wrong person to ask that question of. So, hope none of my ex-wives are watching right now. Hi, guys. So towels are important, and towels fall into all kinds of uses of products. You know, we're going to use towels for dressings. We're going to use them for windows. We're going to use them for leather conditioners. Towels are also fall into the category of applicators. So if you have applicators you're using for a leather conditioner, you probably don't want to use those with your tire dressing, because when you're conditioning leather, you don't want tire dressing all over it. So applicators fall into that same thing. They're all made out of fabrics, being mostly a microfiber fabric. That microfiber fabric is designed to do a certain job. If you have a thicker, plusher microfiber, that's probably the one you're going to use on your paints, especially with ceramic coatings. If you have a thinner towel like this, you're probably going to use that on interior or removing tar, situations like that. Why do we use light towels for that? Because we want to see if we're getting dirt off. If we're getting dirt off the car and transferring the towel, we know we're accomplishing something. If we're using a black towel to clean the interior of a car, do we really know if we're actually getting dirt off it? Because sometimes you can't see it inside of a shop. You know, some shops have really good light. Some shops will use like the light bar that Scan Grips makes over there that goes across the top. If you have great light, it's a lot easier to clean the interior of the car. You can actually see what you're doing. Some shops that don't have good light, or if you don't buy one of those underhood lights from any manufacturer, but again, we use Scan Grip because that's who we team up with. They've actually came into our training center last year, which is really cool when we have these manufacturers come in, because they're really the people who know their products better than anybody else. It's like I know Stinger Chemicals. Well, Matthias from Scan Grip knows Scan Grip like crazy. Next month, what's really exciting is we are having Dr. Color Chip in. We are now going to offer the Dr. Color Chip kits. Dr. Color Chip is going to send Tony in. Tony has been there since basically the creation of the company. He's actually going to show you the kits. We're going to do hands-on chip repair. It's going to be a really cool experience, and that's one of the benefits of having these manufacturers in. We have pad manufacturers in, because I don't make pads. We make chemicals, but we need a pad to use that compound and polish down there that we're going to talk about in a second. These are people that are willing to come in because we partnered up with them, and those partnerships are important because to really accomplish something, you have to figure out what tools match the chemicals. So when you come in or tune in and see one of these manufacturers in, it's especially important for you to look at what they're saying, because they might hit that button right there is the thing that you're having a problem with or not able to accomplish. Because I guarantee everybody has problems. You know, I follow a lot of detail forums on Facebook, which sometimes goes so far down these rabbit holes that I wish I had never looked at it, because I'm stuck on it till 10:30 at night all of a sudden reading all these comments. Everybody in this world wants to think that they've accomplished the perfect detail. Well, let's think about the perfect detail. You might have a Lexus that's all leather, or a Mercedes that's all leather, and how much easier is that to clean the microfibers? Way easier. So if you got a guy doing all Lexus and Mercedes, oh, he's got interiors knocked out like crazy. If you got someone doing farm trucks in the Midwest, well, that's a whole different animal. So when you tune into these, sometimes you'll see us talk about something and go, oh, that's a great idea for that. Sometimes you'll see one of these manufacturers offer up something that you're not doing right now. Why is that important? Money. If you can fix chips, like what you're going to see next month with us, that's an additional add-on. So when we get to the end of this, we're going to start talking about additional add-ons that you can make more money off of, not inside of that detail process. That detail process is really a detail, meaning it's not a 2 or 3 step polish, it's not compounding, it's not ceramic coating, it's not taking out excessive amounts of pet hair, it's not taking gum out, it's not adding a fabric protector. That's just a detail. When we talk about our business class and we talk about add-on services increase your profit margins exponentially, because what happens is when someone's paying you to get that specific problem out of the car, you're making more money if you know how to do it and you've got the right tools. But you got to have the right tools and you got to have the right products to get those out. If you're removing gum out of a car, a citrus tar and gum remover is probably what you're going to want to use If you're getting pet hair out of a car, you're probably going to want to use a specific pet hair product. This is our pet hair brush. This is a for real that goes with a vacuum. So those specific problems are things that we like to address. So you'll see throughout the year, we've got Eagle sandpaper coming as well. We use Eagle sandpaper in all of our trainings. That's going to happen in May or June. So those are some things to look forward to because that gets even more in depth, but specifically with that product. I think we have a question.
We do. So in the chat, we have a question from Ramiro Torres that says, what is the highest concentrated dressing? Would it be Super B?
So the question is, what's the highest concentrated dressing that we make? It is going to be Super B or it's going to be Thunderbolt. They're both very thick. You can add a lot of water to them. Sometimes adding water to them is good because if you can add the right amount of water, save yourself money and get the look you want, which is going to mean appearance-wise, you're going to get either a new look is what I call it, which is very little dressing, just that nice new look to it. You're going to get what I call a satin finish. If you add less water to it, that satin finish is going to have some of that shine. Or in some cases, if you add very little water or no water, you're going to get that super shine, that shiny, shiny, shiny dash. Now, I will tell you who loves super shiny dashes is generally used car lots or people that have a car that really just doesn't look that good because the dressing will hide and make things look better than they actually are naturally. So that's a great question. Thunderbolt or Super B are two most concentrated dressings that you can add water to. Now, there are a lot of other ones in the line as well, and adding water to a dressing, which thank you for asking that question because it's a great question, is generally going to make that dressing a little less shiny. So it's all about the look. If you're doing under 5,000 used car lot and you're detailing cars for them, they probably want shiny because they got to cover up all the defects in this car. If you're doing new cars for dealerships, they probably want that new look or that satin look, so you can add a bunch of water to a concentrate. If you want to not add water to a product because you just want to pour it in a bottle and go to town, we have a product called Arctic White. This is a ready-to-use dressing that's a very economical price point. If you think it's too shiny, you can add water to it, but I've found in the experience of customers with this that they like the look of this if they're doing that kind of new or satin finish. It's not super glossy, but some people think it's too glossy, so they do add water to it. But it's a different price point than, say, a Thunderbolt like this. Thunderbolt has more materials added into it that cost more money. To make a concentrate dressing, we have to build it differently than a ready-to-use dressing. So we talked about water and how important it is for water to be used in our factory and water to be used at your shop. This is one of the products that we have to use very good water with because if we don't, you're not going to get the results you guys need at your shop. So with dressings, here's the difference. You're going to have a difference in viscosity, which usually equates to concentration levels. You're going to have a difference in scents. Maybe you like that the car smells like cherry or pina colada. Maybe you don't want a scent. Maybe you want it to be neutral. Some customers don't like scents, some do. So in essence, if you're really, really doing your job, it's a good thing if you're using a cherry dressing to say, do you want any kind of smell in the vehicle when I'm done, or do you just want it to be natural? If they want smells, we have all kinds of perfumes and deodorizers and all that stuff that we make as well. But with dressings, your difference is going to be concentration level, how much water you can add to it. It's going to be about what look you like. If you have a ready-to-use dressing, it's probably not going to give that same look as a really concentrated Thunderbolt or Super B. This one kind of falls in the middle of those. Universal dressing is, hold on, you're going to be shocked by this, our most universal dressing. If you look at Stinger chemicals a lot of times, especially the newer ones, I like when we name things that do exactly what they do. So if it's universal and it's a dressing, meaning you can pretty much use it on anything. If you want to use a water-based dressing on tires, universal dressing is a great dressing to use straight. I have another dressing we're going to talk about down the line that's even better on tires, but water-based dressings are your most universal dressings because you can use them on engines, tires, interiors, all those things. Why is it important to use a water-based dressing on engines? Because if you use a solvent-based or flammable dressing on an engine, I have in my time in this business seen a lot of barbecues. We call them barbecues because when they spray that dressing on and the engine starts on fire, guess what? The whole car starts on fire. So when I drive into a lot and I see a barbecue car, I look at it and I go, oh, I better tell the guys in the shop that they used the wrong dressing. Maybe it's an engine thing, but a lot of times it's just using that wrong product on that vehicle. So water-based dressings are your best bet for engines. Now, dressings also come in aerosols. So when we talk about aerosol dressings, we are talking about more money. You know, aerosols as a whole cost more money, but talking about engines, this one right here, Quick, which happens to smell like watermelon. We also have Cherry, we have Neutral, we have Body Shop Safe. Again, we have a lot of different products. This one right here will work on parts of the engine that are not in flammable areas. So if you have a plastic cover over the whole entire engine, like you have in a Cadillac or almost any car nowadays, that's going to work on that, and it's going to look great, and you can control it because it's in that aerosol can. It has a very fine pattern to it, you know, mist like this, not the spray pattern where it's kind of going all over. Now, I personally, oops, I touched the mic, probably shattered everybody's eardrums out there. This is not what I would probably recommend to use on engines, but it works great on interiors and it has a watermelon smell. Where is this going to be most effective? Your little rubber accordion boots inside your door jambs, your kick plates, trim, things like that. If you have a vehicle that has very faded dashes or very faded door panels, this is a great product for that. If you're getting $700 to do the detail and you want to use aerosol-based dressings, awesome. I love you to do that. In fact, I'll tell you a little story about Doritos. We're a chemical manufacturer. Doritos makes Doritos. How many of y'all sit down at the end of the day and get in front of the TV and grab your brand new bag of Doritos and all of a sudden you look down and you go, geez, I just ate the whole bag. That happens. Doritos doesn't put 4 hash marks on the side of the bag saying only eat to this point on the first night. They want you to eat all of them. As a chemical manufacturer, I want you to use all the chemicals you possibly can use, but I'm smart enough to know that I want to tell you how they're used and what's going to save you the money, or if you're going to use something more expensive, why are you going to use something more expensive? If you have a certain set of customers that like the look of this on the dash, great, but this can cost more money than this concentrate right here. This will be a lot less expensive than this, but they are totally different looks. This can't get those little accordion boots in most cases on the inside of doors to look really good because you're going to get it all over. Some people are good at it, some people aren't. Some people take our dressings, put inside a paint gun. That's totally okay too, as long as you're using the water-based dressings. Generally, you want to stay away from the solvent-based dressings because it'll swell up the rings and the gun won't last very long. But this is basically just a little different way of applying that dressing to the surfaces that you're working on. Vents, which are sometimes harder to get dressing in depending upon where they are, this is an option for that as well. And again, we make this particular aerosol dressing in watermelon, cherry, non-scented. We make a Body Shop Safe formula. So let's talk about Body Shop Safe. When I talk about Body Shop Safe, the biggest factor in body shops that happens that causes them the kind of trouble they want to stay away from is what's called fish eyes, or paint that just didn't go on right and has different defects in it. A fish eye is generally just kind of a spot on that paint. Body shops generally aren't going to use anything in their shop that has silicone. If it's not an encapsulated silicone, like what's in some of our dressings for the exterior that you're going to wipe on, if it's not an encapsulated silicone or a Body Shop Safe silicone, what's going to happen is as it's sprayed around that shop and transfers around, it's going to cause paint issues. Now, why is this important? Because it used to be that dealerships or body shops generally didn't always detail cars. That's getting to be a little more of a thing nowadays than it was in the past. Dealerships that have a body shop attached right next door to them have to look at all these things and go, I need to stay away from the silicone. So we make products for pretty much everything that are silicone free that we call Body Shop Safe products. But if you're right next to a body shop, or you're in a dealership that has a body shop attached, or you're detailing in a body shop because they call you in or you work there, you want to stay away from these heavy silicone-based products. But we have dressings that we'll talk about a little later that are Body Shop Safe. So, does that answer all the questions on dressing? Because it's the second most complicated thing to explain in our lineup. First most complicated one is always polishes and compounds, because polishes and compounds, you can go down a lot of different rabbit holes with polishes and compounds, but I'm going to show you the basics. And then we are actually doing advanced product knowledge next month on just compounds and polishes. So next month, we've got a bunch of different classes coming up. We're going to do another business class. We are going to do a product knowledge class on just compounds and polishes. We are going to do the Dr. Color Chip class. So next month, we're going to do a bunch more. I haven't quite set up the dates for that. I think they're the 17th, 18th, and 19th. Pretty sure on that, but check the website. So let's get into glass cleaners. Glass cleaners are two different options. You have a ready to use, meaning pour it in a bottle and spray it on the glass, or you have a concentrate. This concentrate is a whole lot less expensive to use than this ready to use. I will tell you, in all my years of selling chemicals, this generally didn't sell as much as a ready to use. When you add shop water, meaning city water, well water, whatever it is, to a glass cleaner concentrate, it sometimes might work great, it sometimes may not. It's very, very dependent upon the water source that you have. Ready to use, we use our really good water, our refined water. This one is going to be ready to use and not cause those problems. So where do concentrated glass cleaners come into play? A lot of times in car washes where they have really good water because they have really good softener systems and water that's really refined. Very common there. If you are in a shop that has well water, bad water, and I'll tell you a story about how to know if you have this. I was in Jacksonville, Florida with our distributor there, and he was telling people that they should really mix their chemicals kind of heavy. In my opinion, kind of heavy. And I said, boy, I think, maybe you could tell them to put more water in it, because I think that they're probably using it pretty strong. Now again, we're like Doritos. We want you to eat the whole bag of Doritos, but we don't want you to use stuff that's too heavy that's going to wreck things. So he said to me, this is where I learn these things. It's always the customer. It's always the detailer. It's always somebody else. I do not think of these things in my sleep. If you're old enough, you know those Holiday Inn commercials, and the guy says, nope, don't worry, I can fix her broken arm because I stayed in a Holiday Inn last night. That's not how it really works. What he told me to do was take a glass, clear, water glass, whatever, and fill it with the water at my hotel that night and look at it in the morning. When I looked at it in the morning, I realized just how bad the water quality is, which you can test it. You can get real technical on testing your water. But what I saw in that glass was just a whole bunch of sediment and stuff floating around in there. That's bad quality water. If you add that to a concentrated glass cleaner, it's probably not going to work that great, or you're really going to struggle with trying to find the right ratio. That's why I sold a lot of ready-to-use glass cleaners. Where I sold was in the Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wisconsin, Iowa territories. In those areas, you have a lot of rural communities that have a lot of well water or not refined water. In Minneapolis, where there was a better water system, I could sell this concentrated glass cleaner. Most of the time, people could get it to work. Most of the time, I push them towards this because this comes out of the bottle, ready to use, works great, has our awesome water in it. With glass cleaners, generally they're an alcohol base. Alcohol-based glass cleaners actually become cleaners. A glass cleaner is a fantastic cleaner if you're just wiping down a dash quickly and it's the right glass cleaner like this one, not an ammonia-based. We have an ammonia-based that's in an aerosol. Mostly we sell that to remove the window tint glue. That's very popular in that particular situation. But glass cleaner will work in some areas where others won't. If you're doing headliners, specifically headliners that have smoke odors to them, if you take glass cleaner, spray it on a white towel, and fold that towel just correctly in a four pattern and make it flat, use your hand flat, mist it down with the alcohol glass cleaner, not the headliner, but the towel itself. You can spot clean or you can full clean that headliner with an alcohol-based glass cleaner, and it works great because alcohol is a natural odor killer, because it is a product that will basically get into that odor and neutralize it. So if you look at hand sanitizers that we all use during COVID, that's an alcohol-based product. So alcohol is an actual bacterial killer, which odors are bacteria generally. So alcohol-based glass cleaners do more than just windows. When you're doing windows with glass cleaners, there's a real easy way to figure out if the windows are streaky on the inside or outside. On one side of the window, you're going to do a pattern like this. On the other side of the window, you're going to do a pattern like this. And that way, if you get streaky windows, you can look at it and go, okay, well, my streaks are going this way. So I did the inside of the window this way. So my streaks are on the inside. If you see streaks going this way, then you know it's the opposite side of the window that you did the different pattern to. Again, I did not think of that. Somebody very smart in this industry told me that one day, and I was like, man, that's a great idea. I'm going to use that later on in life. So let's talk about carpets. So interior cleaning of a vehicle, in my opinion, everybody wants to buff cars. Everybody wants to make cars shiny. And I always tell people, well, where do the customer spend the majority of his time? Inside the car. Yep. So if the car smells, has stains, isn't how he wants it to look, you're going to run into problems because they're not going to come back. A shiny car is great, but let's face it, most customers don't sit in their garage on a stool and look at the outside of their car for hours on end. But they do spend hours of their time inside the car, driving it through rush hour traffic, driving it back and forth to the grocery store. So that interior clean is incredibly important. Now, if you're just doing ceramics or you're just doing buffing, that's fine. You're not promising to get that interior of that car clean. If you're doing detailing, you're kind of making that promise that you're going to get that interior clean and get rid of the odors and the problems they have on the inside. Do we have a question?
So we have a question from Final Approach Detailing that says, what range of durability are you seeing with ceramic shampoo as a standalone on a vehicle that is not coated?
Okay, so the question is, what is the durability that we're seeing with ceramic shampoo that is not coated with a ceramic coating? So my favorite question in all my years of doing this is, how long does a wax last? Well, I'll tell you, it's very subjective to how the vehicle was maintained or how the vehicle is, how often it's washed and how. With ceramic shampoo, we're seeing very, very good durability. You know, ceramic shampoos, again, are not a hardened ceramic, but they're a base of a ceramic. So we're seeing a 30 to 60 day shine and water shedding in the right circumstance. Now, what's the right circumstance? It's not Minnesota, because Minnesota has bugs, it has humidity, it has lots of rain, all those things. It doesn't have a lot of heat though. Now Arizona has a whole bunch of heat. So there's a lot of factors that go into that. If you're using clay before you use the ceramic shampoo and you remove any of that contamination, that ceramic can bond better to that surface. If you don't clay, you're probably not going to get that much longevity out of it. So it really depends a lot on whether the vehicle was clayed and the surface is decontaminated. If they're washing it, are they washing it with something in between? Because a lot of people use Dawn dish soap to wash their car. Dawn dish soap is a grease stripper. So if you're using Dawn dish soap on your car, what's it going to do? It's going to strip off everything that it can because it's designed for heavy grease. When you get done with Thanksgiving dinner, you get your dishes in the sink and you look at all of them and what do you say? Man, that dinner was good, but now I got to actually clean up all this stuff. Well, that's what Dawn dish soap is for. If you're using a ceramic shampoo regularly or you're using a pH neutral maintenance type soap, you're going to get more longevity out of that. Ceramic soap was one of those products when we created it. It's super fun creating products. That's one of the things I love about my job because we really get to talk to our chemists, our manufacturing facility, and tell them what we're looking for. So ceramic shampoo was one of those that we were a little late to the game on it, but we really tested it a bunch and we ran through a lot of formulations. So what ended up happening was when we get to a point where we test the product and decide we're going to sell it, everybody tests it. So all my trainers will test the product. All of them will give me their feedback on it. We'll maybe give it to a customer that stops into our store. We have a store in Houston that is kind of what we put together as a model store for other businesses. You know, we're opening a lot of stores, a lot of these retail stores, a lot of them in California. So if you don't have Stinger product in your market, it's very likely it's coming, or maybe you just don't know where it's at. So contact us through the website. You can always ask questions on the website. We can help direct you. So ceramic shampoo, when we built it, we went through all these different formulations, scents. We settled on Berrylicious. But what was really funny was when the guys were testing what we thought was going to be the final production batch, the CEO and I went out to lunch and we tested on one of the customer service representatives' cars, which is a Kia with the kind of primer gray look to it, but it still has a shiny clear on it. So it's not that color that just pops like a red or a blue or a black. And when the CEO and I come back from lunch and we're walking through the parking lot, he's like, man, did the guys buff Marisol's car? And I said, nope, actually that would be our ceramic shampoo. And he goes, wow, that's really good. Well, I'll tell you, the CEOs get involved in some of these things, but a lot of these formulations now are just in the hands of the trainers and the sales reps. So to hear someone say that who didn't know what was going on really proved to me that it made a big difference. So try ceramic shampoo. I don't know what area you're in, but try ceramic shampoo. You're going to see a lot more shine, a ton of hydrophobicity. Hydrophobicity, we have a lot of complicated terms in our industry. Hydrophobicity just means the water sheds off the surface. So you're going to see a lot of that with ceramic shampoo. To answer your question exactly how long does it last, it's very, very subjective. I would say most times you're going to see 30 to 60 days out of it in the right conditions. In winter in some states, you're going to see 5 days out of it. If your customer's going through, a car wash that doesn't have a ceramic element to it, it's going to break down that liquid SiO2 ceramic more so probably than you hand washing it with a wonderful wash mitt like this one right here. Let's talk about wash mitts since you asked that question. That's a good one. Old school, fake wool, scratches cars. We still sell a ton of them. Newer school, microfiber, fingers. We sell a lot of these. They're good. Best option, microfiber with a very fine knit to it. This is going to scratch the least. It's designed to hold a ton of soap. This one happens to be from the Rag Company, which is one that I like. Shout out to my Rag Company buddies out there if they're watching. If they're not watching, I would be really upset by that, so make sure they get that message. So that's, I guess, the best answer I can give you on ceramic shampoo, and it's not a perfect answer for you, but there really is no perfect answer because there's just so many different variables that play into that. So we talked about glass cleaners. Let's talk about interior fabrics. Interior fabrics, you've got carpet, you've got fabric on seats. In the fabric on seats now, you've got microfiber, you've got very little cotton anymore. Most everything is microfiber. What happens with seats, again, back to my 78 Ford pickup, I can pressure wash the inside of it out, 4 hours later it's dry, it looks great. What happens with microfibers is they don't hold that water on the surface as well, and the foam that's used nowadays, because cars change. The EPA has all these different limitations on what we can do with chemicals. So when you look at our chemical catalog or website, you will see what's called a VOC rating. 26 states, it might be 28 actually as of this year, are what's called VOC. VOC means volatile organic compounds. Those are outlawed in a lot of the states, or we can only use a certain level of them. So what happens with that is we have to change our technology, and we have to figure alternate ways to get things to work that don't have those chemicals that used to work really well in it. So when the EPA decided, okay, we're not going to let the manufacturers use the same glass, the same paint. We're going to make them change paint so it's more environmentally friendly. That's when clear coats came about. Glass in cars is different glass than it was. My 78 Ford pickup, I probably had that thing total for 6 years, never had to replace the glass because it never got etched like they do nowadays. Interior fabrics and interior foams and interior plastics on cars all suffered that same thing. The EPA said, hey, you can't use that same plastic, you can't use that same fiber, you can't use that same foam. So what happened is the interiors of cars got a lot harder to clean. Now, like we talked about, the key to getting cars clean on the inside, not causing more problems, is to keep them as dry as possible. So when you look at interior cleaners, you've got our Easy Clean, Super Clean. Super Clean HD is really designed as a bucket wash, and some people will use it as a stain spotter, so they'll mix it with water and use it out of a spray bottle. The bucket wash, most of you guys will probably be too young to remember this, but it was a 5-gallon bucket, and you'd fill it with this soap right here, and you would take a sponge, and you would literally sponge the whole interior of the car. Well, that worked great back in the day. Now, if you do that, you're going to cause all kinds of smells, problems, stains popping back up, water rings, things like that. So what's the answer to that? In a lot of cases, there's generally two, and they require tools. First one's going to be an extractor. An extractor with the right water pressure, meaning lower water pressure. It used to be when I sold extractors, people wanted 500 PSI. Well, really typically 100 to 150 PSI is where we need to be in cars, because if you think about it, all that pressure coming out of there is shoving all that water deep down into those seats, deep down into those carpets, and what happens then is we have the drying problems because they don't dry like they used to. Extractor HD is designed specifically for extractors. Now, I have seen people use it in a spray bottle and use it as a pre-spotter. It works great for that. But generally, this is what people are using extractors. Now, how much do you use an extractor? This is a highly concentrated chemical. For every gallon of water, I recommend a half to 1 ounce of this product. What also happened with carpets is they have the ability to really have that soap sit on top of the carpet or the fabrics, and they create kind of like a white dusting because that's chemical residue left behind. So in my opinion, extractors, some people will only use water, hot water. Hot water extractors are always going to clean best. They'll only use water. Nothing wrong with that. In my opinion, sometimes that's a good answer, depending upon what you're cleaning. But if you're doing farm trucks from the Midwest, you're probably going to have to use a chemical, a heated extractor to get those really, really clean. Again, don't get the surfaces so wet that they won't dry correctly. So a while ago, a tool came out, this one right here, a Tornador, and that Tornador takes a chemical and turns into a real fine mist. And that real fine mist gets powered by that tornado effect, that vortex effect. What it does, it's great at agitating the surface and making those fibers vibrate. That sand comes out, and if you're using it correctly, which you want to use it close to the surface, all that sand and all that dirt will come up inside of the cone, and when you're done, you stick it in a bucket of water, not soapy water, just water is fine. You can put it in soapy water, it's not that big of a deal, but just water, and you pull the trigger and hold it underwater for about 5 seconds, and all that dirt will come out and it's going to end up in that bucket. So this tool is great because it cleans and doesn't get the vehicle super wet. Now, what do you use inside of this? What we recommend to use inside of this is Twister. We have a concentrate, which you mix the water in, and we have a ready to use, which you can use straight or mix water, depends on how you want to do it. What you don't want to use in them is degreasers, alcohol-based products, ammonia-based products. Ammonia will kill you as a gas, that's a poison. Degreasers have different materials that we make them with that are not great to turn into a atomized product because they create a fog and they also can hurt your lungs. I've been selling Tornadors and Twister tools for probably, well, when they first came out, and I have seen people play scientist and put different things in it. I've seen people sick. I have a customer that was in northern Minnesota who ended up in intensive care and is now actually debilitated by it because they used ammonia inside of it. Now, I'll tell you something about chemicals. You guys are cleaning dirty objects. Are the chemicals super hazardous? If used correctly, no. They're chemicals, but they're not any worse than cleaning agents that you have in your house. But they need to be used correctly. If we say don't use degreasers or wow or any of those things in a Tornador, there's a reason behind it. I've seen the damage it can cause. I've seen shops that I walk into and they go, oh, we don't use Tornadors anymore. And I say, why is that? Oh, it creates too much of a vapor and everybody hates that they get a sore throat. And I say, oh, okay, well, what are you using it? Oh, we use degreaser. Well, you switch them over to a chemical that's specifically made for that tool, that problem goes away. The other chemicals you can use in a Tornador are enzyme, broken down to 1 to 10. That 1 to 10 means you're using very little, 2.5, 3 ounces, and the rest of it water. You don't want to breathe heavy enzymes in because heavy enzymes can cause respiratory issues, things like that. When diluted correctly, an enzyme can be used in that. Now, you're not going to use it on vinyl, you're going to use it on fabrics. So enzyme is one of the chemicals, if mixed correctly, can be used in a Tornador. The other one, and it's not highly recommended, is an all-purpose cleaner like All Clean. All Clean is the do-it-all. Most of the time, this is sold for interiors. If you mix a tiny, tiny, tiny little amount into a Tornador container, it is going to be safe to use, but not the most effective in my opinion. In my opinion, Twister is the most universal on vinyls, plastics, fabrics, everything. On fabrics, enzyme is probably the key to what you want to do with it. But again, it does come down to how do you use the chemical. Let's talk about safety. All right. Not everybody does this, but everybody should. These little things up here, those eyeballs, nobody wants to lose those. No one wants to damage them. Safety glasses, and you can buy way more comfortable ones than this right here. I mean, I was at Home Depot the other day looking at something, and I walked by the safety glasses. Man, you can buy some really cool safety glasses nowadays, and you can spend a lot of money on them. Now, safety glasses are here for a number of reasons. One, if you're using that Tornador tool, that is going to blow dirt around. If you're using an air gun, which air is your friend in detailing, you are blowing things around that can get into these eyeballs. Secondly, chemicals. Some chemicals getting into eyeballs can really, it can hurt you or even possibly blind you. There's really not much what I have in my line that'll blind you, but it can definitely cause irritation. I have people that say to me, I don't ever want to use acids because they're too dangerous. I've had acid in my eyes. I'm still here. I can't see out of my right eye. Left eye's a little blurry. No, I'm just kidding. They're not. They're fine. I can't see very far because my marketing guy yesterday was holding up his phone giving me a message, and I'm like, I can't see more than about 3 feet in front of me. I'm old, man. This doesn't work that way. So safety is important. The other thing that's really important, and this is important for a couple different reasons. One, this bottle right here, if you're taking a chemical from this bottle and putting it in this bottle has to have a label on it. If you are a shop and OSHA walks in the door, depending upon where you're at, it's a $300 to $500 fine approximately for every bottle that doesn't have a label on it that has the correct information, meaning manufacturer, name, information on the back. Now, we do all of our chemicals as Chemtrek. Chemtrek is the #1 tracking source for chemicals worldwide. So what happens when this product is drank by a 3-year-old, which hopefully that doesn't happen, they call the 800 number on there. The 800 number will ask them, what is the chemical? They'll be able to see it, pull it up in their computer, and they'll say, okay, you should flood the child with water. You should stick your finger down his throat. They'll have the answer to that. So we make secondary labels, meaning labels that fit these bottles right here, or smaller bottles, bigger bottles, whatever you're putting it in. And this label right here will make sure that, one, you don't get that fine. Two, let's think about this. In our chemicals, some of them are the same color. With 300 chemicals, we can't have every different color. Doesn't happen. Some chemicals we can't put a dye in. Most solvents you can't put a dye in. So solvents then look like water. So what happens when somebody grabs that bottle that they think is water because it's got nothing in it, just clear, and they spray a wheel acid or a solvent all over a leather seat? Well, that turns into a pretty big problem. It's going to cost you. You guys can do the math on this real easily. If you have to replace a leather seat cover on a Cadillac Denali, how many details do you have to do to make that money back? It's a lot. Yeah, so it's important to have the labels for a number of different reasons, but safety is one. The OSHA factor means if you're compliant, you're not going to get those fines. OSHA can come into your shop at any point in time, any business, and check everything out. I've seen OSHA violations for outlets that aren't covered for wet floors. Believe it or not, that was in a car wash bay. They came in and said, well, you can't have wet floors. I'm like, okay, manager's telling me this. I go, how you're not supposed to have wet floors? He goes, well, I asked that question. They told me we had to squeegee it as we're washing the car. And I'm like, woof. That OSHA inspector probably was having a pretty bad day because that's a pretty hefty thing to ask of a shop. Basically, you got 3 people washing a car, squeegeeing everything out. So there's some factors in our industry that are important to have for safety because we do work on things that work with and on things that can cause damage. Now, again, I've been in this business for 28 years. I don't have a third arm growing out of my forehead. I can still see. I've had acid sprayed in my eyes. I've had degreaser showers. But I'll tell you something about chemicals. Some chemicals will affect different people in different ways. It's just like allergies. You know, some people have allergies and they can be around pollen, but not a lot of it. Some people are so allergic to pollen or bee stings that they can't be around any of them, or they carry an EpiPen. Our bodies are very different than each other. So I've seen where certain chemicals have caused a rash or a chemical burn, but the guy standing right next to him had the same problem where it was sprayed on him by accident and had no issues. I have never had a reaction to a chemical in my whole entire life. My body just, well, maybe that's not a good thing. Let me think about that. My body's that used to chemicals, that may be a problem. But I have never had a chemical reaction, but I have had customers who had a certain reaction to a tire dressing. You know what we did? I switched them to a different tire dressing that worked just as well, but it didn't have a watermelon fragrance. So there are allergies to certain chemicals, but again, we make 300 chemicals. So you generally don't have to worry about not being able to use chemicals. It's just a matter of if you don't like a scent. My mom, for instance, watermelon, she can't handle that scent. I was testing watermelon spray dressings one time, and I went and picked her up to go shopping. And I'll tell you what, she was in the car for about 3 minutes, and she said, I can't go shopping. This is driving me crazy. But when I tested cherry dressings in there, she gets in and says, oh, this smells great. And we went shopping and everything was fine. So some people have different reactions to certain things. In all my years in this business, there's been a lot of different circumstances I've run into. There's always an answer to it. With us, it's just, okay, you don't like watermelon, but cherry works, great. You don't like cherry, we've got unscented. If you don't like a blue solvent dressing because it makes your skin dry out, we've got a nice water-based dressing that has a glycerin and a silicone, which also happens to be in hand lotions. So you know what? If you really have dry hands, just take Thunderbolt and rub it all over your whole entire body. You're going to be just fine. Don't actually do that. So let's talk about specific cleaners for specific circumstances. We have a vinyl leather cleaner. This is a pH neutral cleaner that is used for leather and vinyl. More specifically leather. The reason being that some all-purpose cleaners and some degreasers are going to dry out leather. This one is not going to do that. We have WOW, which is for microfiber. So this is a remediation chemical. Remediation is one of those fancy words we use in detailing for cleaning. So remediation, if you ever want to impress your customers, I'm going to remediate your carpet and your seats, and they're going to go, wow. Hopefully they don't ask you what that means, because you're going to be just, that's just cleaning. But remediation is a term that's used in our industry. WOW is an ammonia-based product, so it is a little harsher chemical. It is a concentrate, so you'll generally want to mix it with water. You decide. I mean, it can go up to 1 to 10. You can do it at half and half. I've seen all different uses of it. But this was specifically made for the microfiber seats. Reason being that ammonia flashes, meaning it, there's another fancy word, meaning it dries quickly. So flashing means dry quickly. What happens with this chemical is because it flashes and dries quickly, it doesn't soak down into those seats, and it doesn't pull all that dirt down with it, and then when it dries out, it pulls it all back up. So WOW specifically made for microfiber seats. This is not a chemical you can breathe in a whole bunch of. You don't want to take the cap off and sit and huff it, because ammonia is a strong, strong chemical. This is not a chemical you can mix with anything else. Let's talk about mixing chemicals. So I often walk in places and they've got scientists, they've got chemists. And they're like, I use a little bit of this and a little bit of this and a little bit of this. It works great. And I go, awesome. You haven't died yet? And they're like, no. Okay, good. Why would you ask me if I died? Well, because when you mix certain chemicals together, like ammonia and an alcohol, they can really create a poison, and that poison can really affect you. Again, my guy in northern Minnesota who is now in a wheelchair, it was because he put ammonia into a Tornador, and that's how that happened. So you generally don't want to try and be a scientist. We pay chemists to do things. We pay safety inspectors. We pay people to write these SDS sheets who are scientists and are certified to do it. So you really kind of want to stay away from that. If something's not working for you, the best thing to do, call the manufacturer. We get people all the time that go in on our website and they'll ask a question. That's great. With this format that we're doing now with lives, you guys can ask questions as we're doing the classes. So you have the manufacturer right there to ask the question of. Maybe you're using the wrong chemical. You know, I get questions all the time of, hey, I'm trying to clean this, and your all clean works great on everything else, but it doesn't work on this. And I say, you know what, grab our enzyme. That'll probably work better for you. Manufacturers are real good at knowing this stuff. True manufacturers that do it themselves, build it themselves, are testing products over and over and over again. I can tell you that our 810 Cut Polish Protect, when I came on board with Stinger, we probably went through 10 variations of that. 10 variations is really not a lot, but we had to test it 10 times. I was testing it in Colorado, I was testing it out in the field, I was testing it in Houston. So this product took about 10 tries before we got the formula we wanted. Some of our other products, we do it 50 times. Ceramic shampoo, we probably did 50 variations of ceramic shampoo before we decided that was the one. So there is a science behind building these things, and there is safety factors involved, but believe this truly, we are testing our products ourselves, we are building them ourselves, so we know exactly what needs to be done with them. We know exactly when they're safe to use on certain surfaces and also when they're safe to use in certain ways. Not everything can go in this and work. So let's talk about makeup of chemicals. Makeup of chemicals is kind of funny because so when I sold chemicals for the 23 years before Stinger, I knew a little bit about how they were built. I knew a little bit about raw materials, probably just enough to be a little on that dangerous edge. 5 years ago or 5.5 years ago working for Stinger, now I know a lot more about how they're built. Generally, the more raw materials that you can put in a chemical, the more broad the coverage of what it will do to clean. So we have a product called Gold Power. This, in our company, and when I sold it, had a slogan: if nothing else works, grab your Gold Power. This is a chemical that we put a lot of different raw materials in. It's got citrus deliminings, it's got solvents, it's got surfactants. All those are fancy words for things that clean. So Gold Power is such a universal cleaner that I recommend everybody have it. Now, it's got a little higher price point to it. Is that a problem? It's a problem if you use it on everything that you don't need to. But if you run into a headliner that's got a certain stain on it, or you've got a carpet stain that's a heavy 80-90 weight grease for a rear end differential, a lot of times some of the other chemicals won't attack it the right way and lift that dirt and grease out. Gold Power is great for that. When I sold Gold Power, the motto was, if nothing else works, grab your Gold Power. So Gold Power is one of those ones that you're not going to use on everything. It's a specialty cleaner. You're not going to use it all the time, but you're going to use it on your problems. And what are we here for? We're here for you guys to solve problems. That's what we do. If you have a problem, you contact us, let us know. We'll direct you to the right person that sells our products out there, and we'll also help you figure out why the product that you're using maybe isn't working. If you're using a competitor's product, we're very knowledgeable about our competitors' products. We're very nice to our competitors too. We don't badmouth their products, but if you call us and say, hey, I'm using so-and-so's product for this, it's not working, we're not going to say, well, that's because the product sucks. That's not ever going to happen. Me or my guys will never, ever do that. What we may say is that may not be the right product, it may not be strong enough, but in our lineup, here's our suggestion. We are very professional about how we handle ourselves. We do not rip on other products. That's something we take to heart very, very seriously because we're not in this business to talk other people down. We're in this business to help you guys get to the root of the problem and solve it. So let's talk about a citrus tar and gum. So kind of like Gold Power, citrus tar and gum is a solvent that is based on delimining. Delimining is a fancy word for orange juice, basically. Not orange juice really, but the solvents that come out of citrus-based products are, one, very effective on certain types of problems that you're going to run into. They're also smell good. So when you have a citrus-based product like Gold Power or citrus tar and gum, a number of other products that we use that raw material in, it smells good. So citrus tar and gum was very popular when people were doing interiors of cars and they ran into situations where they had to use a solvent, whether it be a lipstick problem, a heavy grease problem. They would use citrus tar and gum because the typical solvents will leave a smell behind. That's generally not friendly to customers. Customers like in their car, they probably would be happier with an orange smell than a heavy-duty solvent-based smell. So citrus tar and gum has a couple things going for it. It has delimining, so it attacks surfaces differently than a straight solvent, which we'll talk about in a little bit. It also has a much nicer smell than a solvent. So interior use, you're not going to have that customer complaining of that, because solvents will stick around for a while when used on the interior of a car. So citrus tar and gum is more specifically made for, I'm going to shock you on this one, tar and gum. So it's pretty specific to what it's used for. Now we do sell solvents that are not citrus based. We're going to get to those in just a minute here. But citrus tar and gum was one of my favorite things. It's in my garage because I use it on an awful lot of different projects that I'm doing or problems I run into. My daughter continually moves in and out of my house with her dog. Used to be my dog. When we first bought that dog, it was my dog. And then when my daughter moved out, she took it and said it's her dog. But I still pay all the vet bills, so it's kind of my dog. But anyways, she comes back to the house and lives for a while because we live in Colorado, so she's kind of doing different things. She'll travel for a month somehow or another. That doesn't get paid for by her, it's paid for by me. Hi, honey, if you're watching. But that dog will do different things in the house, so when that dog is around, I have citrus tar and gum, and I use it for an awful lot of different things. I think we might have a question.
Yes, so we have a question from Auto Doctor. He asked, or they asked, do you recommend shampooing seats in weather like today in Houston, or would it be better in warmer weather with no rain?
If it's done correctly, so the question was, should you clean seats in varying weather? So today in Houston, it's colder. There's still some humidity. When I say colder, it's 50. I live in Colorado. 50 is not cold to us. But in Houston, 50, all the guys who are from Houston right now have heavy jackets on or flannel shirts. I'm here in short sleeves. So the question was, do you recommend doing seats in different weather conditions, some being more hot and humid or some being like today where it's 50 degrees? Most of the time you can't control whether you have to do that or not because you've got the car in there. What I really suggest is, again, keeping them dry. Using a Tornador, using an extractor with a low PSI pump on it, keeping it as dry as possible, not flooding it with water, because what happens in different weather conditions is the seats will dry at different ratios. So some weather the seats will dry really quickly, some they won't. Humidity does have a big factor in that, which, here in Houston they have humidity all the time. Where I live in Colorado, it's very dry. We have 12% humidity. Houston is 3,840% humidity. Very, very comfortable here when it's humid? Not at all. So if you don't have the choice, the best answer is keep it as dry as possible. If you have weather where it dries real quickly, that's obviously probably the time that you're going to have less problems, but the problems are going to stem from how much water enters that material and stays in that material longer. Because just like we talked about with bacteria, the reason cars smell like wet dogs is because that bacteria grows in that water that's in that seat, and that's what causes those smells in most cases. So hopefully that answers your question. It's not the best answer because I can't give you the best answer on it, because if you have a car you got to clean, you don't necessarily get to decide when you get to clean it. So hopefully that answers your question. But again, Tornador with our chemical or an extractor with our chemical, if it needs to be used, is the best way to do it. Honestly, the best way to work on interiors of cars is to use the enzymes. I cannot tell you how much our industry changed when enzymes came into play. So in the beginning, I talked about how 28 years ago when you cleaned a car, you only needed about a quarter of this stuff. Well, again, we were working on cars that dried quickly. So enzymes, because of the way they work with those little bugs eating up all the proteins and all the dirts and things, they don't get the surface very wet. They are an excellent cleaning material, raw material that we use. So enzymes as a pre-treater is a massive difference down the line in how that car is going to look and how much work you need to have into it to get it to that look. Hopefully that answers your question. So let's talk about leather. We have a bunch of different leather conditioners, and obviously we have a leather cleaner as well. Leather is a coated surface. There are no pink cows. There are no 100% tan cows. There are no different colors and variations of cows. Now, there are actual natural uncoated leathers. Your Ford King Ranches, a lot of your Alcantaras in your different high-end European cars or German cars or whatever it is you're working on. Guess Germany's part of Europe. I think so. My geographic, I haven't gone to school in a long time, so I get dumber every single day. But you have leathers that are uncoated. They're very, very, not hard to clean, but they require specific cleaning methods to them. One of the things about coated leather, which is in 90% of the vehicles out there that we work on, might even be more than that, is a coated leather surface, you are actually cleaning a coating. It's almost like you're doing work on paint. You have a coating over that surface, and that coating, if not moisturized, will crack, and those cracks will look like dirt. If you take a magnifying glass, and this was taught to me probably 28 years ago, my first training I ever went to, if you take that magnifying glass and you look at leather, you will see that a lot of the times that looks like dirt, it's actually cracking. There's nothing you can do generally to clean that. What you can do to prevent that is moisture, leather conditioner. So you want to moisturize that leather, condition that leather. Like I said, we have a liquid, we have numerous lotions, all in the catalog, all on the website, just different formats. If you want to spray a product, we have a product called Vinyl and Leather Preserver, or we have a product called Vinyl Leather Cleaner Conditioner, Vinyl Leather Rubber Cleaner Conditioner, the longest name in the history of mankind for a chemical. I named that one myself, so just because I wanted it to do exactly what it says it does. Those are the things that we can do to prevent that cracking. Once that cracking has happened, there's really nothing we can do. So a lot of times if you have someone that comes into your shop and you look inside and you see that leather looking that way, have a magnifying glass around and say, you know what, Mr. Customer, I see that your leather is very dry and cracked, so let me show you something. You show them that and say, that's a crack. I'm going to do my best to get that as clean as possible, and I'll dress it and moisturize it, but it's probably not going to look like what you think it will because I can't make it new again. I can't make those cracks form back together. Now, there's companies out there that make products that will repair that. That's not a leather conditioner. That's a repair. And there's a difference between repairing something and cleaning it and conditioning it. So our leather conditioners are awesome products. We've got them in different smells, different formats. Use them every time you detail. Use it as an extra charge. If you're doing a detail on a leather car and you say to the customer, I'm going to clean that leather and it looks good and you know you can, I'm going to clean that leather. Would you like to maybe have me condition it for an extra 20 bucks? Whatever it is, 30 bucks. If you're in certain markets, you can get 100 bucks for it. If the customer's bringing in their Maserati, you can probably get 100 bucks for it. But that's an additional add-on because really, what are we talking about in a detail? If you're promising a clean car, that's a clean car. If you're promising a perfect $700 detail, for sure condition leather because it's built into the package. You've already charged the customer for that up front in that package. But otherwise, leather conditioning should be one of those things that really becomes an extra charge because it's a pretty easy sell, and I see it, again, I didn't run detail shops, but I see it all the time in the detail shops where you have your add-on menu, which we talk about in our business class. Those add-ons are just pure profit for you. You know, leather conditioner, how much leather conditioner are you going to use on one car? Not very much. You're going to get by with very little material in that leather conditioner. The labor is pretty quick because all you got to do is grab an applicator like this, put your leather conditioner on or your spray bottle, spray it, wipe it down, and you're done. So leather conditioners are pretty much just that. There are different types of leather conditioner base materials. We use mostly lanolin or glycerin in ours. There are mink oil. We have an aerosol that's a mink oil cleaner and conditioner. It's a foam, actually really, really cool. It's what I use on my cars. That's in an aerosol, so obviously, like we talked about, aerosol costs go up, but it's my favorite product to use on cleaning my car and conditioning the leather because it's a foam and it's fun and it smells like leather, more so to me than the other products. Now, let's talk about smell. Right now we're doing a fun project. We're creating a whole entire line of basically car perfumes. So how do you do that? Well, you take a whole bunch of people, put them in a room with 20 different fragrances, and you tell them to smell every one and pick the best one. Well, after 3 fragrances, pretty much everything starts to smell the same. So this process of doing this is very labor intensive. And everybody smells something different. You know, sometimes people smell leather conditioner. So when I started looking at how people liked our leather conditioner smell, I would ask 10 people, you know, okay, what do you think of this smell? Guaranteed 7 would go, oh, I like that, that's good. 2 would go, oh, it's not strong enough, and 1 would go, oh, that's way too strong. So it's very hard to make something that satisfies everybody's senses, and the olfactory senses, which is your nose, your scent, is a very, very powerful sensation in you. Our Carnauba Dream Shine, we use the Dreamsicle fragrance in. So that's creamsicle. If you remember, if you're old enough and you were a kid, maybe they're still around. I don't have kids that are that young anymore, but the orange push-up pops that used to have, that's had that smell to them. When you smell our Carnauba Dream Shine, most of the time people will go, oh, that smells just like orange push-up pops. Well, that's from their childhood. So smells are important. We want to make sure we understand what the customer wants for smells. So I like the strong leather smell. The other conditioners don't have probably quite as strong a leather smell. They all have leather fragrance to them because we want to bring that fragrance into the car. But you may want to have both of them around and say, I can use this one with this smell, or I can use this one with this smell. Which one do you prefer? One thing customers like is the choices. If you think about when I was young, and again, I'm old, I would take my bike and I would ride it to the gas station and I would look for pop, soda, whatever you want to call it, Coke. No matter where I'm at in the country, it's a different word for it. I would go into the gas station and they would have Coca-Cola and Pepsi. That was pretty much it. Then they started doing Diet Mountain Dew. Well, now, leaps and changes later, Diet Mountain Dew is purple, green, diet, sugar-free, caffeine-free. Now they have alcohol Diet Mountain Dew. I haven't tried that one yet because you can't drink at work unless you're a beer taster, because we have a beer factory by us and they have beer tasters. So a lot of times customers like the choices. Scent, no scent. Certain scent over another scent. Why do we want to do that? Because it makes us that much better than the guy down the street. Why am I getting more for my detail, Mr. Customer? Because I have some options for you that I'm going to present to you to let you specifically pick up your car and go, that's exactly what I was looking for. So, some different things. The aerosol dressings, here they are right here. We have a Body Shop, we have an unscented, we have a cherry scented, and down there we had a watermelon scented. Again, same thing, we have a satin. Satin has a little different look to it, just different looks. They're all designed to do the same thing, just a little different look or a little different smell to them. You guys choose what you like. Maybe you want to have both of them and offer up the customer that choice too. I know that when I go into places with my car or my bike or my skis or whatever they are, it's cool when someone says to me, hey, we've got a couple different ways of doing this, and let me tell you why. And if I go, oh, well, this is kind of cool, I get to be involved in this process of choosing these things, and they offer me different scents, maybe if it's my car, I like that. I'm thinking, this guy actually cares, or this girl, I can't say guy all the time, but this woman, this man actually cares what I'm going to see when I pick my car up. So that's why we do a lot of different scents. So here is our Body Shop safe dressing. We have 2 Body Shop safe dressings. Our Body Shop safe dressings are solvents, and they are water-based. So getting back to water-based and solvent-based dressings, which are going to be your blue dressings like this right here, these are generally made just for tires. The reason they're made for tires is because the action of the products that we put in this attack that surface of that tire. They open up the pores in the tire because rubber has pores. And when that pore is opened, the silicone in this has more of an opportunity to penetrate and bond to that tire. That's going to make it last longer because it's more water resistant. So solvent-based products are generally going to be tires. Now, we have a dressing that is called Duration, which in my opinion is one of the best dressings out on the market because it does a couple different things. One, it's a wipe-on. When you spray on dressings, and a lot of the world likes to spray dressings out of a spray bottle, it goes all over. It gets on the wheel, you got to wipe the wheel down. Gets on the paint, you got to wipe the paint down. Solvent-based dressings are especially one of the things that people don't like about them. The other thing with solvent-based dressings, if you're spraying it on a tire that hasn't been degreased or cleaned, and that's a new tire, like at a dealership or like a customer getting new tires, a lot of times what can happen with a solvent-based dressing, and sometimes water-based dressings, is when it contacts what they call a mold retardant, which is what's put into that tire as it comes across the ocean to not mold, that will combine, and that's what creates sometimes those little brown spots on silver whites and things like that that you see. That is very hard to remedy. Most of the time it's sanding or buffing, so we don't want to do that. The beauty of duration is it is not a sprayable dressing, it is a wipe-on dressing. So you're going to use a tire applicator like this or any other applicator that you like. You're going to wipe it on the tire, but what it does differently than others is it bonds to the tire, and what that bonding is kind of like a paint sealant. When it bonds to that tire, it holds up to the water. This dressing is going to hold up okay, maybe one rainstorm, it's going to look okay still. This one holds up a lot longer and a lot better to that water. So different types of dressings, same purpose. We want to make tires look new, or we want to make them look shiny, or we want to make them look satin, but different ways of doing that through different types of products. Maybe you hate getting down and wiping the tire and you'd rather spray it. Great. Universal dressing, premium dressing is your ticket. If you want to wipe it on a tire because you don't want all that overspray, Duration or Thunderbolt are probably the options you want. Again, dressings are that huge category with a lot of different options. So we're kind of like the convenience store with 80 feet of different things you can drink. You know, I could name off my guys on my team like Celsius. Some of them like water, just water. Amazes me, they don't get any caffeine in themselves. Some like Monsters. I like Diet Mountain Dew. It's choice. You know, it's all about choices. So unfortunately, if we built one, we'd have half the people or more in the world who didn't like it, so they'd buy somebody else's stuff, so we just have to keep making them. And I always get this, you know, oh, you got to discontinue some chemicals because we got too many, and I look at our sales reports, I go, yeah, but there's 50 people out there buying that one product from us, so maybe it doesn't sell as much as one of the others, but there's 50 people that love it, and if I call those 50 people and say, hey, you got to change, what's the thing people don't like in life? Change. I'm especially like that. I like things to be what they are, and I'm used to it. And when I have to change, it's probably going to work out fine. If Diet Mountain Dew disappeared today, Diet Coke would probably work just as well, and I get used to it. But you know what? I want my Diet Mountain Dew. I really do. So non-silicone dressings are going to be specifically more for your body shop situations. Silicones in our industry have, I'll tell you a story that I get. Actually, it's a conversation I have a lot. People will say, oh, I don't want any silicones because silicones are bad. And I say, why do you think silicones are bad? And they say, well, you know, it does this, or it's not good for the materials. Silicone, if you look at your hand lotions, your cosmetics, your conditioners for leather, things like that, that's what they are, is they're silicones. Silicones are not bad. Silicones are actually, in the detail industry, our friend. They're not friends to a body shop. Body shop is where you run into problems. But if you look at your wife's makeup and think about this, or your hand lotion you use, or whatever it is, or your conditioners in your shower that have silicone in them, how bad can they be if we're using them to condition our hands? They're in the makeup, they're getting used in our conditioners for our hair. They're not bad. It's just bad when it gets to a body shop. Most of the people that have this misconception about silicones being bad for a surface generally come from a body shop. Now, if you choose not to use silicones because you don't want to, perfectly fine. But what you're going to find is products that don't have silicones don't always work or react the same way that a product that does have silicone works. So with waxes and polishes, silicone products are generally easier to use. They dust less. They have a little more pop to them right out of the gate, but we don't want to use silicone products when we're ceramic coating because we want that surface to be 100% clean and free of any kind of residue, oils, anything like that. So silicones have their place in the industry and they don't have their place in the industry. If I'm ceramic coating a car and I'm buffing it and prepping, I don't want anything with silicones in it. If I'm doing a one-step on a car and it's my buddy that's not paying me in my garage, maybe he brings me a 6-pack of beer, because I also like beer and Diet Mountain Dew at the same time. They're good. I'm probably going to use a one-step product that has a wax and silicone built into it. There's nothing wrong with that. It works great. Is it a ceramic coating? Absolutely not. Is it going to make them happy because it's all clean? Because what's funny about clean and shiny, when we talk about clean, shiny, and smells good, You know, there's different variations and levels of shine that we're going to produce by buffing cars. Customer might be acceptable with shiny scratches. Customer might pay for 3 steps of buffing because they want it perfect. There's some things that Oscar talks about in his business class, and it's awesome because he taught me that, again, I didn't think of this. Oscar actually probably thought of this one because he's way smarter than I am. He does a gas cap test, and he'll show the customer with a 1-step buff what their gas cap's going to look like, and obviously the rest of the car will look like. This is how much this costs, Mr. Customer. You like that? Let me show you one other thing. Do a 2-step. That looks better than the first one. Oh, yeah. How much does that cost? Well, this is this much. A lot of times people will go for a 2-step. Very few people are going to pay for a 3-step buff nowadays, but fortunately for us, the technology in polishes and compounds has changed so much that a lot of times we can get by with a 1-step if we're looking for shiny scratches, if that's the surface we're presented with. If we're looking at perfection, we're doing multiple steps on it. And depending upon those multiple steps, we may want a wax built into the compound or polish. We may not if we're ceramic coating it. So unfortunately, with the waxes, compounds, and polishes, it's a deep, deep category of products that we talk about. So that one we separate that out from this one, and that one will be next month. So if you want to learn a lot about that, we'll talk about that next month. So let's talk about odors. When you look at a car that's dirty, I had shops that successfully eliminated odors in every single car. I had shops that couldn't get odors out of the cars no matter what they did. It wasn't they were using the wrong products. The one thing they were missing at the shop that couldn't accomplish getting those odors out was they weren't cleaning them the right way. What happens if we don't get the product that causes that smell out of the vehicle, that smell is going to continue to come back over and over again because we have to eliminate the source before we can actually eliminate the smell. Now, there's a lot of different ways to make cars smell better, eliminate odors. We have liquids like the odor eliminator. Odor eradicator has a whole bunch of different raw materials in it, including enzymes, all different things that are put in there to get rid of odors. It's a liquid. Liquids don't always get everywhere in the car. They can get on surfaces. So if you have a seat that had fast food all over it and it's got a fast food smell, what do you want to do? You want to clean the seat really, really well and probably use some odor eradicator afterwards, spray it on the seat, let it do its thing. If you've had a dead mouse inside the refrigeration system or the fresh air intake or any of those things, well, how do you get that dead mouse smell out? A lot of times you've got to use a gas, like an odor bomb. An odor bomb is going to create a fog or a gas that's going to go all over the vehicle, inside the vents, up inside the dash, everywhere else. And this is a great option as an odor killer as well. These are flavored. Some have a neutral scent, some have a melon. This one happens to be black opal. This one you can do spurts, or if I push it really hard, which I'm not going to do, you can actually lock it out and let it fog the whole entire car. And a lot of times in a car that's been a smoker car, that's going to be the only solution in some cases. Now, a few years ago, this came out. This is a chlorine dioxide treatment. Chlorine dioxide is tablets that you will open this package and you will pop them back in this container. It has a fill line of where you put the water to, and you fill it with that water up to that line, and what it does is it creates a gas, just like what's in a pool. So it actually kind of shocks the air and creates this odor neutralization, and it's strong, and it works good. It works good if the car's clean. In most cases, if the car's clean, this will eliminate all odors. What it does do is it leaves behind kind of that poolish chlorine scent to it. Sometimes that goes away quickly. Sometimes you can use a little bit of this in there to get rid of it. But this is a very strong odor killer, sometimes overkill. These are not cheap. This is something that costs you money, more money than this by far, and this is something you want to charge for. So if you get a car in that's a heavy smoker and somebody bought it that's not a smoker, you can say, I'm going to do a couple things here. I'm going to clean the car really, really well, and I'm going to charge you hopefully $400 for that. And then I'm going to do a chlorine dioxide treatment, and that is $50 because this might cost you $20 or $25. Now, there's no labor in this, obviously. All you do is just put water in it, put it on the seat, put a towel underneath it, or put it on the floor. These come with very specific instructions. You don't want to be in the car when this is going on because it can make you very, very sick. I have moved cars that these treatments are going off in, and you'll have a headache for quite a while afterwards. You might have brain damage. That may be where my problem is, why I can't remember anything. But that's a method of getting rid of odors. Odor eradicator liquid, a gas fogger, and a chlorine dioxide treatment. Now we also have perfume, cologne. So these here, Black Opal, we have about, I think we have 10 fragrances in these. They are just a liquid. It's like putting perfume or cologne on. You can buy this and put it in small bottles. It's a lot cheaper than buying cologne. Do it inside your house, going out on a date. I would suggest Black Opal for that because it really smells good. But these are basically perfumes. So if you ever go to a car wash and they say, oh, would you like a little bit of scent inside your car? And you're looking at going, yeah, that sounds good. Oh, would you like Black Opal or cherry or apple? That's those things right there. They will eliminate a little bit of odor sometimes, but what they're really going to do is just leave that scent inside the car for a small or short period of time. Not what I would recommend as an odor killer though. So, on to solvents. Solvents, we have a lot of different solvents. We have citrus-based solvents, we have alcohol-based solvents, we have heavy solvent bases that are all different materials and types of solvents. This is a specialty adhesive remover. That is a very universal product to remove a lot of different greases, tars, oils, things like that. We have a tree sap remover. These are not the same product. This is a different base of materials that we build than this one right here. Tree sap remover works better on tree sap than specialty adhesive remover. Specialty adhesive remover I would grab for your tars, your transfer marks on kick plates and things like that. I would grab Gold Power for those things or New Car Solvent as well. With our solvents, New Car Solvent, specialty adhesive remover, you're going to see a difference in strength, but you'll also find that you like one more than the other one. When I sold Stinger Chemical for 10 years, I probably sold more of this than I did New Car Solvent, just because people preferred this over New Car Solvent. New Car Solvent is a little cheaper, a little less expensive. Everybody here gets mad when I say cheaper. Let's face it, cheaper in some cases is better. I'm not gonna pull the wool over your eyes on that one. So New Car Solvent is a little less expensive than this one. Still works great, and we sell more New Car Solvent than we do this, but this is your tar removers. This is your surface removers for transfer marks, things like that. Tree sap remover, I'm gonna shock you again, this removes tree sap. So, this product, tree sap, other ones, solvents, you can use the different orange-based solvents, delaminating-based solvents. You can use an alcohol base like this one. And where we're getting into this, if you've noticed, as we've gone down the line here, we're doing it in the order of detailing by the numbers. So how this is set up is exactly when we do the detailing by the numbers class like we did yesterday. So this is our process that we recommend. So as we get closer to this process down here, we're going to kind of cover some of the other things that we did already, and I'm going to skip over that a little bit because we're getting a little close on time. And unfortunately, this class is really hard because we don't do a PowerPoint presentation. This is really about how we kind of flow through the class, the questions we get asked, things like that. So getting into this category here, all of this here is generally going to be exterior prep or exterior dressing. So when we look at a showroom shine is a very simple, basic spray wipe down. Doesn't have any wax or really protection built into it other than the silicone factors inside of it, because silicone actually is a protectant, sheds water very well. But showroom shine is also a clay lube. So when you talk about clay, you've got traditional clay being the bar that you form into a pancake, and you've got a clay pad like this one here. This clay pad is going to be just as effective. This, in my opinion, is always going to be the thing that you're going to have to use on certain areas of the car. I had a white Suburban, and I hate looking at my white Suburban with all these little orange dots of rail dust on it, brake dust, whatever it is, whatever contamination you're dealing with. So on that, I would use this on the majority of it, but this I had to use around the license plate and the areas I couldn't get into as much with this. So clay, the lubricant is this. I'll tell you why clay lubricant's important, because these things right here are an investment. They're not cheap. You want to make them last as long as you can. Showroom Shine was built with the conditioners that will keep that clay and that clay pad usable longer. So you save money basically. Sometimes I see people using alcohol-based glass cleaners. Well, alcohol dries things out. We know if we put our hands in isopropyl alcohol, your skin gets all white and starts to dry out. This is not going to do that. The other thing I see is people using car wash soaps. Car wash soaps are okay. They're not going to have your clay last as long because they a lot of times have sodium, which is salt, which is a thickening agent. So I always do recommend Showroom Shine or some type of instant detailer, some type of spray wax to use with the clay. Claying is important. One of the things that happens with customers when you do the exterior of their car, they want to touch it. They want to feel how smooth it is, especially old guys. Man, apparently I'm an old guy now because I walk up to the car and I take the back of my hand and I run across the paint. Very first thing I do. Not every customer is going to do that, but the one customer that decides to do that, if you didn't clay it and it's got that rough surface to it, that's going to be the guy that goes, you didn't do anything to the outside of my car. Actually, yes, I did. I applied a spray wax to it. Yeah, but it's not smooth. Well, spray wax is only going to work at its best ability if there's no contamination on that surface. So the decontamination process is very important with a clay or also an iron remover. Iron remover is going to be a different type of acid, more of a neutral acid, still an acid family. What it does, it seeks out ferrous metal. So it seeks out iron, hence the term iron remover. Seeks it out, and what it does, it eats away at it. So when you spray it on, it's yellow. When it starts to react with the different ferrous metals and irons, it will turn purple and it will eat that away. That doesn't smooth anything out though. That's just removing those particles. So if you use iron remover but you don't clay, you still may have that rough surface. And one thing that's important to understand is waxes by nature fill. Waxes will make a surface smoother, but ceramic coatings will only make a surface smooth and only really adhere if the decontamination process with a clay and with an iron remover are performed. Now, if you're doing a short-term ceramic coating, you probably can get by with just claying it. If it's white and it's got iron in it, you got to get the iron out, because I inevitably get a lot of calls from ceramics. We do our own ceramic called Quantum, which we'll briefly touch on. I get a lot of calls from people who say, oh, your ceramic didn't work. And I say, okay, what happened? I've learned this. What happened? They go, well, it's got red spots all over it. And I say, okay, so you clayed and iron removed the vehicle? And I hear silence on the other end of the phone. Well, I clayed it. Okay. Did you iron remove it? Well, no, I clayed it. Okay, it's a white car? Yes. A lot of times what happens is clay is going to do some or most of the job, but it's not going to do all of it. So it's really good to use both of them with a ceramic coating, because once you put a ceramic coating on top, and ours is the same way, you're looking at a semi-permanent coating. This coating cannot be removed by a chemical. It's got to be removed by friction, meaning sanding, very light sanding, 3 to 5 to 7,000, or real heavy buffing, wool pads, things like that, which if you're buffing with wool pads, you're going to cause more work for yourself down the line. So you have to solve these problems before they get underneath that ceramic. Water spot remover. So water spots in our industry, which we have water spot remover right here, hence it removes water spots by its name. Water spots are especially a problem in our industry for ceramic coatings, because water spots, if not removed correctly, will continue to cause problems continuing to come up to the surface. A water spot is not an abrasion. If I take a pen and walk over to that hood right there, and I take this pen and run it across the top and put a scratch in it, that is an abrasion caused by friction, meaning a scratch is caused by a tree branch, somebody walking over with their nails, a cat crawling across the top of it, a crappy car wash that doesn't have enough lubrication, or a person washed their car without the right wash mitt with no lubrication. So water spots are different than that. They're a chemical reaction, meaning that somewhere along the line, a chemical got on that, and there's a lot of different chemicals that cause this. Hard water, which is usually lime or calcium, acidic water, fallout, different things like that will cause a chemical reaction. That chemical reaction creates that little crater, that little water spot that you see. Now, you can buff the surface of that off, but think of it as a volcano. The volcano is this little pointed object, and if we take and we knock the top of that pointed object off and it looks good, well, that's fine. but that crater or that little bit of that volcano is still there causing that water spot to come back. So if I get a call from people who are saying, hey, I've got water spots and I put your ceramic coating on, the first thing I ask them is, how did you neutralize the water spots? Neutralizing water spots is the only way to truly get rid of them long term in most cases. Now, some water spots you can buff off and they won't come back, but most of the time if the water spotting is bad enough, you have to neutralize it with a water spot remover. A water spot remover is in the acid family. We are working on actually we're done with it now, but we have a glass water spot remover that's not in the acid family. It's in a different category of chemicals altogether. It works great. That's going to be released soon, but that water spot remover over there is an acid base that neutralizes that water spot and makes it go away permanently. Buffing sometimes works, not always though. So it's always a safer bet when you're trying to remove water spots to use a neutralizer like that acid, especially if you're going to put a ceramic coating over the top, because water spots can form underneath that ceramic coating if that chemical that caused the water spot is still in that paint. If that all kind of makes sense to you. Neutralizing it gets rid of that chemical, makes it so when you put the ceramic coating on, the water spots don't reappear again. Very, very important steps to the success of a ceramic coating. And we have a whole entire ceramic coating lineup. So polishes and compounds, those we're going to talk about next month. We're going to get real deep into that. I'll probably do that class maybe, or one of my guys. My guys are great. I love this job because I got great guys. In fact, my goal is to not really actually work anymore at all and make them do all the work. It's great. Love it. They're all sitting back there right now going, hey, what? Huh? What did we sign up for here? So, rejuvenating trim. We've got a couple different trim restorers. We've got a trim black magic restorer, meaning you can put the dye back into the trim. This is a water-based but water-resistant rejuvenator, meaning that it will bring back that kind of new OE look to it. It's not greasy, shiny, but most importantly, it sheds water. So it's a much longer-term protection, moisturizer, renewer for the trim. This one is your under 5,000 lot, real greasy. It will run with water, so if you get a rainstorm after it's applied, you might see it going down. What this does really, really well, though, is if you have trim that has waxes or residues in it from polishing, that because of its base material we use in it, it will attack that surface and pull that out better. So sometimes if you have a vehicle that has that trim that has those white spots and things like that, this is your better answer. But once you fix it, you can go down to this and make sure it looks good, but it doesn't look necessarily greasy and shiny. If you have a Jeep or especially a vehicle with a lot of trim on it that fades and it's supposed to be black but kind of looks gray, this is great for that because it actually will re-dye that plastic back to black again. Different applicators you can use with it. Getting into this is all stuff we've already talked about. Now, talking about extra services. When you talk about extra services, one of the things you can do is once the vehicle's clean, you can recommend to the customer that you use a fabric protector, meaning that that seat will either stay cleaner longer or it will be easier to clean the next time and also less likely to have permanent stains. So we do a couple different fabric protectors. That's an add-on sale. That's just like when you get extra dog hair in there that you got to remove. It takes you more time. You should upcharge for that. We talked about the leather conditioning, upcharging for that as a menu type item. That's exactly what this is too. This, unless you're doing a $700 detail, which hopefully y'all are, but most are probably not, this would be included in the $700 detail, but it's not included in the $199 interior cleaning. The $199 interior cleaning is cleaning. It's not conditioning leather. It's not protecting fabrics. These are additional things you should be adding on as an additional cost. Important to do that because once you have the car clean, adding this is just spraying the seats down, probably maybe wiping them with the microfiber cloth quick, but there's not much labor involved in this. You have some chemical costs because it's not the cheapest chemical out there, but the whole goal in all this is always price it accordingly where you're making the money off of it. Going into the ceramic program, we have, as we talked about, a water spot remover, which we've already discussed. We have an iron remover, which we've already discussed. We have a ceramic spray prep, ceramic coating prep. What happens with a ceramic coating is the very last thing you want to do before you put a ceramic coating on is you want to make sure that every surface of that area that you're going to be coating is free of fingerprinting, silicones, oils, waxes, all of that. Now, if you're using the process that we're leading up to with this and you're using non-silicone products to buff or polish with, you're not going to have much of that left behind, but you might have fingerprints. And this is designed, it's a very light, fast drying solvent that's designed to remove that and get that surface ready to be coated. We go into quantum coating. Quantum coating is our ceramic coating. It's a 9/8 hardness, very similar. Most ceramic coatings are very good products if they're made by the manufacturer. Made by the manufacturer means we have complete control of everything we do with that product. We know how to build it, we know how it works, we've tested it. Unfortunately, with the boom in ceramics, you've got a lot of companies out there or people that are buying them from China and relabeling them or just buying them off Facebook, which is astonishing to me that people buy ceramic coatings off Facebook, but they do. Those are really questionable whether they're going to have the long-term durability. With our ceramic coating, Quantum, we've added into it care kits, which again are additional cost for the customer, something you can sell to them. That's just a interior cleaner, leather vinyl, car wash soap if they like to wash their own car. Quantum Enhancer just being one of our spray ceramic products. So you have some options of things to sell your customers too. Now, there's two different ways to look at selling things to customers. Like we talked about the small bottles over here, the retail bottles. That's a great money maker for you, but maybe you don't want to sell that to the customer because you would rather do it yourself. Or maybe you know the customer likes to do those things in between, so rather than have them go to O'Reilly's or AutoZone or whatever, you would rather sell them the ceramic spray sealant because you know they're going to do it, so why don't you get the money for it? If they like to keep their interior all dressed up, vinyl, leather, rubber. These are things that you can sell and make money off of. But on the other hand, if you don't want them doing that stuff, you choose not to, and you just get them back in to do your services. You know, one of the things we talk about in our business class is that repeat business. How do we continue to grow repeat business? Very, very good class to watch or come to. Ceramic shampoo we've talked about in our ceramic program. This will be the one that you're going to want to use to do all your maintenance washes. Ceramic body protection. So this is a whole different animal. And this was something that was kind of it was kind of almost like a secret when I came on board with Stinger. It was used for warranty programs, but when I tried it and used it and realized the benefit of it, which is basically you're applying a ceramic booster with a foam cannon or low pressure foam gun. So you wash the car as you typically would, and if it's a ceramic product that is on there, you can use a ceramic shampoo. This will boost it even more. So what this is when you're all done with the wash, it still can be wet. You just spray this on, you let it sit 3 to 5 minutes, you're going to see it foam up, you're going to see the foam crush, meaning it's going to kind of come down, and then at that point you're going to rinse it off and then dry it with your drag dry system or air drying with a blowgun. This adds another element of protection and shine to it. So what you see with this product, even if you don't have a ceramic coated car, is you're going to see super hydrophobicity, super shine, great feel. If it's clayed, that's important too. But this product, because of the way it's applied, is very quick. You know, you're just using a foam gun or you're using a low pressure foam gun like this one here that goes under a garden hose. You spray it down, it gets all foamy, you let it sit. It doesn't take any labor, takes very little of your time, but you can upcharge for it. Or it can be part of your ceramic maintenance package that you sell to the customer. Mr. Customer, I ceramic coated your car today. Here's the maintenance program I'd like you to follow. If you'd like, I can do that for you. Here's my charge for that. Or you sell them a year-long package, whatever it is. That can be one of your elements right there, and it's a great product. Like it's one of those ones, like I said, it was kind of a Stinger secret, and when I discovered it 5 years ago, I was like, why don't we sell a ton of this? This is an awesome product. So the other maintenance item for that, and I kind of touched on it over there, ceramic spray sealant. So this is a great spray sealant. This spray sealant is going to be, again, the element of the ceramic shampoo. It's not a hardened ceramic. It's not what's in this box right here or what's in your bottles that you're applying ceramic with. It's a booster, but it's an SiO2 product, so it's the base of all ceramic coatings. And this product is exceptionally good at creating either a light-duty, short-term ceramic, if there isn't a hard ceramic applied to it through the ceramic application process, or it's a great booster as well. That's a lot of products to talk about. So hopefully everybody got a lot out of this. We finished kind of right on time. We cheat a little bit because this category right here, these polishes and waxes, are something that takes a long time to talk about. We kind of generally will tie that in with our buffing class or our sanding class. So you'll see on the website what we do next month. We're going to really break it up into a lot of different things. So it's going to be fun next month, but I appreciate all y'all coming because this is something that I don't do all that often anymore, but I do love doing it still. Training is still a huge part of the things I like about my job. I have a whole training staff. You'll see all of them next month. You'll see things in Spanish that Bruno likes to do. You're going to see things from Zach. You're going to see things from Oscar. The month after that, you're going to see Connor. So I'm glad you tuned in. Make sure you guys check the website. Make sure you see what's coming up because a lot of cool things. Remember Dr. Color Chip? One of the requests we got most, 2 things we get in the classroom, leather repair, which I'm working on that, and chips. How do I work with chips? So we brought Dr. Color Chip into Stinger as the product we're going to sell and also distribute to our distributors, but also we want Dr. Color Chip to come in here and show you guys that. So whether you're live out there in the internet world or you're here in the classroom, you're gonna see that whole presentation by Tony Pando. Awesome guy, great presentation, awesome product. So thanks everybody for coming in. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it very much. Have a good day, everybody. I'm going fishing.